Welcome to the most comprehensive free course on Kickstarter. This is over 2 hours of pure Kickstarter tutorials, and my goal is to take you from a complete beginner and turn you into somebody who can launch a successful Kickstarter this year. If this is your first time here, I'm Mark, and I've run LaunchBoom for the last decade, where we've helped over 8,000 product creators raise over $175 million through crowdfunding. Most of the people we work with are complete beginners, so we've gotten really good at distilling the complex world of crowdfunding into something that's easy to understand and implement. Now, since this video is so long, make sure you hit that like button right now so you can save it for later. Now, you can think of this video as my best hits album. It's a mashup of all the most important tutorials I've made, and watching them in order will allow you to have a complete understanding of how to launch a successful Kickstarter. In particular, we'll be focusing on 9 key lessons, including the Kickstarter strategy that's working the best for our clients today, how to create all your marketing assets, how to attract backers, and even all the costs associated with a successful campaign. We'll start off with a big overview of the Kickstarter marketing strategy, and then each additional tutorial will get more into the nitty-gritty. I'll also be giving away a free audiobook copy of my best-selling book, Crowdfunded, at the end of this video. But for now, let's dive into the foundations of a successful Kickstarter marketing strategy. In August of 2022, Audrey launched her first Kickstarter campaign called Cubelet. Unfortunately, it failed to get the funding she needed, so she canceled it. And 8 months later, she relaunched the same exact product on Kickstarter, only this time it raised over $150,000. So what was different? Well, let's pull up the 2 campaigns side by side. In the first campaign, Audrey positioned her product as mini monitors for your desk, and in the second successful campaign, Audrey positioned her product as the ultimate simple yet powerful data tracker. She didn't change her product in the second campaign, she changed how she positioned her product. And that simple yet powerful change of positioning was key in helping her raise 6 times more funding her second time around. So what makes good product positioning? Well, I like to say that good product positioning convinces your target customer that your product solves their problem. This is a lot easier to say than it is to do, but there's a framework I like to use that will help you clarify your product positioning, and it's called the Consumer-Based Brand Equity, or CBBE framework. It has 4 different levels that will help any creator position their product to sell. Starting at the base, we've got salience. This is where you answer the big question, what are you? But here's the key, you've got to keep it simple. What your product is and how it solves a problem should be crystal clear. It's like when someone asks you what you do for a living, you wouldn't say, I dabble in a multifaceted array of ventures. No one knows what that means. Instead, you'd say something like, I'm an engineer, I'm an accountant, or I have a business that sells products online. When it comes to your product, you want to use words that your target audience understands. So keep it simple and don't overthink this part. Moving up to level 2, we're talking about performance and imagery. This is where you show off what makes your product truly special. Let's start with performance. Performance is all about what your product does way better or different than your competition. Does it last 10 times longer? Is it 50% of the price? Is it a new and interesting theme for a board game? Don't hold back here. This is one of the few times in life where it's okay to brag. Next, we have imagery. This is like the setting where your product story takes place. Where will people use your product? Who will be using your product? How will they use your product? Paint that picture so your target audience can clearly see themselves using it. Level 3 is about judgments and feelings. This is where people are asking, how good are you really? Starting with judgments, you want to think about the doubts people have about your product and then get in front of those doubts. For example, for neck hammock, we knew people would have doubts about the effectiveness of such a simple device to help with neck pain. So we leaned into the science behind cervical traction and the fact that it was created by a doctor and licensed physical therapist. Now onto feelings. This isn't some kumbaya stuff I'm talking about. Instead, this is about identifying the emotions you want people to feel when experiencing your product. Are you going for fun and youthfulness, or serious and professional? For example, let's compare the feelings you get from Zbeck Snap and Wilderlore, which are 2 LaunchBoom campaigns. These are the first GIFs that appear on their campaign pages, and they feel pretty different, right? With a sleek white background and subtle zoom video editing, Zbeck gives off more of an innovative, professional, and cool vibes, while Wilderlore, on the other hand, uses soft, warm colors to evoke feelings of love, support, and connection. As you can see, the feelings you choose will lead you to different words and images in your marketing. And at the peak of the pyramid, resonance. This is the what about you and me moment. It's where loyalty lives and where connections are cemented. You want customers to see your brand as a kindred spirit with a shared mission and values. For example, one of the campaigns we helped launch recently was the Crooked Moon. It was created by 7 best friends who love Dungeons and Dragons. Including their story in the product positioning created connection or resonance between between their customers and themselves. This is one of the reasons why they went on to raise over $4 million and become the most funded D&D campaign ever on Kickstarter. Use the CBB framework to position your product the right way, and once you do this, you'll have an incredibly strong foundation to build the rest of your Kickstarter launch on top of. All right, now on to step 2, product imagery. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a good product image is worth 1,000 backers, because good visuals translate to instant appeal. And there are 2 main types of product imagery you can use to get there: photorealistic renderings and photography. First up, let's talk about renderings. These are like the magic of Photoshop for your product. Renderings allow for precise control over product appearance, materials, lighting, and environment. And these can be a lifesaver if your prototype isn't ready yet. All you have to do is find a 3D render artist on a site like Upwork, and you can start your marketing while finalizing your physical prototype. An important note though, photorealistic renderings are not allowed on Kickstarter, but they can still be very useful in your marketing during the pre-launch. Next, we're talking about the real deal, product photography. You want to get 3 types of product photos: studio photos, location photos, and action photos of your product. Studio photos are like the glamour shots of your product. Throw your product on a white or colored backdrop and highlight every angle and feature. For example, check out these studio shots from Launchboom creator Author Clock, who went on to raise over $1.3 million on Kickstarter. We shot the Author Clock straight on at a 45-degree angle, profile, and back. For location photos, you want to showcase your product where people would use it. Lucky for you, you already thought up all those locations during the imagery section of the CBBE framework. Let's see the location shots for our campaign for the top shelf, which raised nearly 1.3 million Canadian dollars on Kickstarter. We showed off the bag in locations like the wilderness, a busy city, and while working. This way, backers could visualize how they would use it. Now for action shots. You want to use these to showcase product benefits better shown through motion or interaction. Focus on one specific action you're trying to show and capture that in a photo. For example, here's an action shot from our campaign for the tandem shower, which raised over $774,000. As you can see, it shows the action of a couple taking a shower together, which is the main benefit of the product. But action shots aren't limited to photos. They can be video too. Here's one from the campaign for the pepper cannon, which raised over $1.1 million. These show how the pepper cannon can grind a bunch of peppers super fast. All right, now with your product imagery done, we can move on to step 3, building a reservation funnel. So what in the world is a reservation funnel? Well, a reservation funnel is a way to collect email addresses and, more importantly, $1 reservation deposits during the pre-launch. Those that put down a $1 deposit are rewarded with your best launch deal, and we like to call them VIPs. Here's why this is so important. Without the $1 reservation, it's virtually impossible to know how likely it is that someone on your email list will actually buy your product when you launch on Kickstarter, which means it's very easy to waste money on marketing, building email lists when you don't use a reservation funnel. Instead, adding a special VIP offer like a discounted add-on or guaranteed discount that gets people to put down a small deposit in the pre-launch lets you know who's actually interested in buying. Now, the steps in the reservation funnel are simple. I'll show you how we did it for our campaign for Botany, who raised over $1 million on Kickstarter. First, create a landing page using the product positioning and product imagery you created in steps 1 and 2. The goal here is for someone to give you their email address. Next, show an exclusive VIP offer in exchange for a $1 reservation deposit. Botany gave an exclusive add-on called Brilliant Blue Botanicals, but it doesn't stop there. Once they check out, lead them to a thank you page where they are invited to join an exclusive VIP community. In this case, they use Facebook, but a Discord server can work too. You might be thinking, is getting the $1 deposit really worth it? The short answer, yes, and the data backs it up. We found that on average, someone that puts down a $1 deposit is 30 times more likely to buy than someone that only gives their email address. That's a huge difference. And not having enough VIPs can be the difference between failure and success for your Kickstarter. Because here's the thing, the pre-launch email list you'll build with the reservation funnel is going to allow you to hit your Kickstarter funding goal on the very first day. Yep, you heard that right. Botany, for example, used their pre-launch email list to blow past their $5,000 Kickstarter goal, raising over $105,000 in the first 24 hours. Quick tip, the reservation funnel I showed you from Botany was created using LaunchKit. That's the software we built at Launchboom that powers all of our launches. If you want to learn more about LaunchKit, I've included a link in the description below. All right, let's move on to step 4, setting up your email marketing. Before you start building your pre-launch email list, you need to set up your email marketing strategy. That's because it's not enough to just talk with the people on your list. You need to talk with them the right way. But before we get into the details about the exact emails you should send, you have to understand 2 important best practices of email marketing. Best practice number 1, limit your calls to action. Every email you send should call the reader to take an action, and in the marketing world, we aptly call this a call to action or CTA. Think of it as guiding the people on your list down a path that takes them closer to becoming a backer. For example, a great call to action is for someone on your email list to upgrade to VIP for $1. Ideally, you only have 1 call to action per email, so keep it focused. Best practice number 2, quality over quantity. Nobody likes getting a bunch of emails in their inbox every day, and bombarding your list with a ton of emails is an easy way to hurt your open rates and see more unsubscribes. You want your pre-launch list to be excited to back your project, not to be annoyed every time you pop in their inbox. My advice is to keep things simple. There are 2 sequences of emails you want to send. First, your welcome email sequence, which is a series of 2 emails that welcomes them to your pre-launch list once they first sign up. And second, your launch announcement sequence, which is a series of 2 emails that are sent in the week before your launch. That's it. Don't get tempted to send weekly updates to your subscribers. We've actually found that to be the quickest way to make people get frustrated and unsubscribe from your list. Instead, keep it simple and only send the most impactful emails. Now, in a later step, we'll dive into the launch announcement email sequence, but for now, let's talk about your welcome email sequence. This sequence should be sent out to new subscribers to your email list automatically, and setting up the automation is easy with any modern email service provider like MailChimp. But I wouldn't recommend setting up just 1 welcome sequence. Instead, you should set up 1 for both your non-VIP and VIP segments. Let's start with the non-VIPs. These are the people on your email list that have shown interest but haven't put down a $1 deposit yet. You'll want to create 2 emails in this sequence. The first one will be sent to them right when they sign up for your list. You'll want to thank them for signing up and include a call to action to upgrade to VIP for $1. For example, here's what the first welcome email looked like for the Crooked Moon. Next, you'll want to add a second email to the sequence. This will be sent 1 day after the first and focus on 1, trying to get them to engage by answering a question, and 2, upgrading to VIP for $1. You can see how the Crooked Moon did that with their second email. Next, let's talk about the welcome email sequence for your VIPs. VIPs are the most excited about your project. Calls to action here are focused on giving them more ways to stay up to date with your campaign. The first email in your welcome sequence should be triggered when they put down the $1 deposit. Because they already have upgraded to VIP, I recommend either inviting them to follow your Kickstarter page or to join a VIP community where they can interact with you and other VIPs. For example, here's what the first email looked like for the Crooked Moon, which does exactly that. Now, the second email is pretty similar to the non-VIP email. Ask them a question and then use the same call to action as your previous email. For example, here's what it looked like for the Crooked Moon. Now that you know which emails to send, you'll need to get them set up in an email marketing platform. And there are many to choose from, like MailerLite or Klaviyo, but we like to use MailChimp here at LaunchBoom. As long as you use one that can set up automations and can send normal email campaigns, you'll be all good. All right, now that your email strategy is ready to go, let's start by actually getting some emails on your list. That brings us to step 5, driving traffic with meta ads. Now that you have your reservation funnel built, you need to tell people about it. And by far, the best way to do that is with Facebook and Instagram ads, aka meta ads. Now, creating a good ad really boils down to getting 2 things right. First, you need to target the right audience on Meta. And an audience on Meta is really just a collection of interests. And like it or not, Meta knows a lot about what people are interested in. Now, to make this process easier and a lot more fun, I suggest using the Superfan framework. Think about who would love your product. Stretch your imagination a bit here. Give them a name, create a little backstory, give them an occupation, a family, and an income. But the most important part here is to ask the following questions. What do they do for fun? What brands do they buy from? Who do they follow? And what do they watch and listen to? For example, here's what the Superfan looked like for our campaign for the Polycade Sente, which raised over $1.6 million on Kickstarter. They liked video games, especially the retro arcade type. They liked the finer things in life, like Ferrari, Supreme, and Mont Blanc watches. They were also a little bit of a nerd and liked reading Wired or watching the latest MKBHD video on YouTube. These are all interests that can be grouped together and then targeted on Meta. So first, think of who your superfan is, and then you can easily build your audiences. Second thing you'll need is to create a good ad, which is really made up of copy and imagery. Let's start with your ad imagery. This can be a photo or video and is the thing that will stop people from scrolling their feed to pay attention to your product. We found that studio shots or location shots like the ones you got during step 2 can perform really well here. For example, check out these ads for our campaign for NitroPress, which raised over £649,000. The first is a nice studio shot and the second is a beautiful location shot, and both worked really well. For video, there's a lot of different styles you can try, but one of my favorites is the product walkthrough template. For example, check out this ad for our campaign for Tidyboard version 2, which raised over $354,000. This is the fast cut video that walks through how to use the product. You'll want to test different ads and audiences until you find the right combinations that get you the lowest cost for $1 reservation. And when you find the best performing combinations, scale up your ad budgets until you have a big enough pre-launch email list to launch your campaign. But before we get to your launch, there are a few more things we need to get done first, which brings us to our next step, building your campaign page. The campaign page is so important, yet so many creators screw it up. This is not the place to tell your story. You're trying to get people to buy, which means treat it less like a best-selling novel and more like a direct response advertisement. Here are 3 tips to make a campaign page that sells. First, think in headlines. You may spend hours perfecting every word on your page, but I hate to break it to you, most people aren't going to read them. Instead, they're going to skim. And what do they read when they skim? Your headlines. For example, check out what the page for our campaign for Sentry Jacket looked like. As we skim down the page, the headlines tell us a lot of important information. Introducing the Sentry Jacket, the all-natural, high-performance 100-year jacket, timeless silhouette for timeless wear, functional fit and functional form, 100% natural, 100 years of adventure. From just reading those headlines, you get a pretty good understanding of the main benefits and features of the product. Second, use a lot of GIFs. GIFs are great for showcasing those action shots you got during step 2. For example, let's pull up a few on the Sentry Jacket page. In the flattering fit and functional form section, they used 2 GIFs to showcase the different looks you can get from the jacket. Or let's go to the twill weave silk lining section, where there's a GIF of someone using the inside pocket while showing off the silk lining. Third, use your pre-launch data to influence your campaign page design. One of the coolest parts about all the advertising you'll be doing during the pre-launch is that you'll learn so much about what works and what doesn't. Take those learnings and directly apply it to your campaign page. For example, check out the best performing headline on the landing page for Sentry Jacket. And now let's look at the headline on their Kickstarter page. They're basically identical. That's because the Livingston team already knew the headline worked because they tested it during the pre-launch. Do the same thing. Take your best headline and make it your Kickstarter headline. Take your best ad image and make it your campaign image. You get the idea. All right, it's time to move on to the next step, creating your campaign video. The campaign video. If I'm being honest, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with it. It is important and can be very persuasive in getting someone to buy your product, but it can also be a huge cash suck. I've seen too many creators insist on spending way too much money on their campaign video. In nearly every case, I think the video shouldn't cost you more than $15,000. After that, there's diminishing returns, and I'd rather just put that savings into something more productive like ad spend. And by the way, I think most first-time creators should spend a lot less than $15,000. Let me show you a video we created that actually cost less than $10,000 to produce and was super effective.
Hey man, you busy?
Yes, you are busy. And it's time to let your house know it. Meet BusyBox, the wireless status box that helps you work uninterrupted and enter deep focus at home.
Now, like I said before, this video didn't cost a lot to produce. Why? Well, first off, it had a great script and was largely driven by a voiceover. It was shot in one location with a few actors, and those actors could easily be you or your friends. It made use of stock video to make the video more dynamic while keeping the cost super low. This campaign went on to raise $332,000 on Indiegogo, and Steve, the founder, even got on Shark Tank, which I think is awesome. Now, assuming you don't have video production experience, the hardest part about creating your video will be getting it shot and edited. That's where a lot of the costs come in. You can keep the cost a lot lower by writing your own script and hiring contractors to help you get it filmed and edited. There are also really good agencies that specialize in campaign videos, but I would recommend going for their lower cost packages in most cases. We just talked a lot about spending money, so let's switch gears and talk about making money. It's time to move on to step 8, choosing rewards and pricing. You can think of rewards as the buy options for your Kickstarter campaign. These are the things that people back, and they are super important to get right. I'm gonna give you 3 different reward strategies that we've used on thousands of campaigns. But first, you need to understand these 6 key pricing concepts that we use, because these concepts are why these pricing strategies work so well. First up, discounting. You know the classic get it at 50% off strategy. This is one of the most popular pricing strategies within crowdfunding. Second, price anchoring. If you saw a product for $100 today and then tomorrow was $50, you'd think you were getting a great deal, right? That's price anchoring, and it can be a very powerful tactic within crowdfunding. Third, scarcity. This is where you limit the amount of something being available. This can be very persuasive because people do not like to miss out on stuff. Fourth, urgency. This works just the same as scarcity, except it uses limited time instead of limited quantity. Fifth, the paradox of choice. This is a concept from Barry Shorts, which points out that when humans have too many choices, they often make no choice at all. And for that reason, we want to keep our rewards as simple as possible. 6, value stacking. As the price increases, the value associated with that reward actually goes up. Another popular name for this is bundling. All right, now that you understand the 6 key pricing concepts, let's get into my top 3 reward strategies. First up, discount stacking. This is best for creators who 1, are only launching 1 main product, and 2, are not in the games category. For example, let me show you how this worked for our campaign for the Desk Nest. Here's how the rewards were broken down. VIP special for $99, launch special for $111, super early bird for $115, early bird for $119, and the Kickstarter special for $139. These are all different rewards, but each is selling the same exact product. The only difference is the discount being offered. Each of these rewards use different limits of time and quantity to incentivize backers to get in earlier. This is working really well for Desk Nest right now, who are actually live on Kickstarter and have already raised over $350,000. Second up, the no-brainer deal. Let's say you plan to sell an add-on that is complementary to your main product that costs you very little to make. You may be a good candidate for the no-brainer deal. For example, let's see how our campaign for the Backblade 2.0 used this strategy. First off, here were the 2 items that were available for sale on the campaign: the Backblade 2.0, which was the main product, and a 4-pack of extra blades, which was the complementary add-on. Because we had the add-on of the 4-pack of extra blades, we could create 2 different rewards. First, the starter pack, which came with just the Backblade 2.0. This was $24 or a 30% discount off retail. And second, the full pack, which came with the Backblade 2.0 and 4 extra blades. This was only $29 or a 38% discount off retail. When people came to the campaign, they realized that they could get a lot more value if they just spent $5 more on the full pack, which is why we call it a no-brainer deal. This worked really well for Backblade, who went on to raise over $316,000 on Kickstarter. Third, we have value stacking. This works great if you have multiple standalone products or if you're in the games category. With value stacking, when the price goes up, so does the value being offered. That's because you'll bundle different valuable items together in each reward tier. For example, let's see how the campaign for Kelp did this. First off, they had the following items to sell on the campaign: Kelp Standard Edition, Kelp Deluxe Edition, and the Brilliant Behaviors mini expansion. Because Kelp had 2 different main products plus some add-ons, they bundled them together into different value-based reward tiers. They had the Standard Edition for 45 euros, the Deluxe Edition for 60 euros, and the Deluxe Bundle for 68 euros, which included the Deluxe Edition of the game plus the Brilliant Behaviors mini expansion. Again, each reward tier offered more value, which only incentivized backers to spend more money. This worked super well for Kelp, as they went on to raise over 1.4 million euros. Hey, real quick, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm talking about, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world, with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 269 reviews, and I published a new edition in August of 2023 where the CEO of Kickstarter and Indiegogo endorsed it. Anyways, you can put it up on Kindle, print, or audiobook that I recorded myself. Link to check it out is in the corner of this video and in the description below. All right, it's time to move on to step 9, setting your funding goal. At first glance, setting your funding goal on Kickstarter should be easy, right? I mean, shouldn't it just be the amount you need to make your product? Well, for many creators, the answer to that question is increasingly becoming no. You see, crowdfunding is not just used as a funding tool, but a marketing tool. And it can be used for both at the same time, by the way, but many creators are using it more for marketing than for funding. And depending on how you define success for your campaign, will tell you what you should set your funding goal at. To help you figure this out, it's important to answer some questions first. What are the fixed costs to create your product? If you lost money on the crowdfunding campaign, would you still bring it to life? If so, how much are you willing to lose? With the answers to those questions, ask yourself which of these two strategies you identify with more. 1, funding strategy, you need to raise a certain amount of funds to create your product. If you don't, it's very unlikely you can get funds from somewhere else. Or 2, marketing strategy, you already have the funds to create your project. Kickstarter is your way to get mass exposure, and you're okay with losing some money on the campaign. If you answered funding strategy, then the answer to setting your funding goal is simple. Set the funding goal at whatever the amount is you need to create your product. And to figure this out, you'll have to be further along in the product development process. That means, at a minimum, having a quote from your manufacturer to how much it will cost to produce your minimum order quantity. Now, if you answered marketing strategy, then the funding amount should be whatever you believe you can hit on day 1 of the campaign, because getting funded quickly has huge benefits such as increased social proof, attracting press, and getting free traffic from Kickstarter. To figure out how much you can raise on the first day, it's pretty easy. You can take the number of emails on your list and calculate what percentage of the list you believe will convert into a backer. Multiply that number by your price point, and you can get a good estimation of how much you'll raise on the first day. For example, one of our campaigns, Bear Mountain Camping Adventure, had 1,826 people who put down a $1 reservation in the pre-launch. We conservatively estimated that 30% would turn into a backer. With the lowest price point of $39, we generate $21,364 on the first day. So the goal was set at $5,000 because we thought we could blast through it. And that's exactly what happened. The VIP list ended up converting at 51% and contributed over $89,000 in sales to the campaign. So maybe our original estimates were a little too conservative, but no one complained about that. All right, with the funding goal set, it's time to move on to step 10, choosing your launch date. I'm going to tell you the exact month, day, and hour you should launch your project. How? Well, we have data from over 342,000 Kickstarter campaigns that was analyzed by KickNotify. The data clearly shows when the best time to launch your Kickstarter is. Before I tell you that, let me explain how to understand the data I'm about to show you. I'll be showing bar charts to make it easier to visualize. The purple bars represent the number of launches, and the yellow people icons represent the average number of backers per project. The higher the purple bar or yellow icon, the more of that thing there is. So first, let's look at the data for the best day of the week to launch. As you can see, Tuesdays have both the most launches and average number of backers per project. This means it's the best day of the week to launch. Why is this? Well, email open rates tend to be the highest on Tuesdays, and email is typically how creators are announcing their launches, so a higher open rate is going to send more backers to a campaign. Next, let's look at the data for the best time of the day to launch. All of the times are in Eastern Standard Time. Clearly, the morning is the best time to launch. If you launch somewhere between 7 to 10 a.m., you'll be good. This makes sense since the majority of Kickstarter's market is in the US, so trying to take advantage of the entire day in the US is typically the best strategy. That is unless your audience is primarily based in a completely different time zone. For example, if over 50% of your email list lives in Europe, then launch between 7 and 10 a.m. in that time zone. Next, let's look at the best month to launch. What pops out to you immediately when looking at this chart? Probably that there isn't too much difference between all the months, except for 1 month. I'm looking at you, December. Yep, December is the worst month to launch. That's because December is the month of holidays and gifting in many parts of the world. Both of those things don't play very well with crowdfunding. When people are taking a holiday, they don't buy a lot of stuff for themselves, especially when that holiday revolves around buying gifts for others. People don't buy gifts with crowdfunding because it's a pre-order and they won't receive the product for a long time. By the way, I would also advise against launching in November if you can avoid it. The end of the month is where we see huge sales for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, so brands will start spending a lot on advertising, which just creates more competition and increases the cost of advertising for you. So the takeaway here is that May is the most popular month by a slight margin, but really any month is okay as long as it's not December or November. But there is one more thing to take into account here: seasonality. You want to launch in the season when people will use your product, not when they will receive your product. For example, let's look at our campaign for the Go Sun Chillest, which is a cooler to be used outdoors. When do people use coolers the most? Well, during the summer, right? So that's when they launched. And you want to know when people actually received that product? In January, when it's cold and people aren't using coolers. This may seem counterintuitive, but backers buy stuff based off of the desire to have something now, even if they won't receive that thing for a long time. So if you have a seasonal product, launch during that season. All right, now that you know when to launch, let's launch this puppy. On the first day of their campaigns, Polykate raised over $1 million, Botany raised over $100,000, and Nanofoamer raised over $387,000, blowing past their funding goals in a matter of minutes. How in the world did they do that? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back 1 week before launch day. This is where you'll start the hype train with your pre-launch email list. There are 2 emails you'll send to your email list, 7 days before you launch and 1 day before you launch. That's it. Sending too many emails is the quickest way to get people to stop opening your emails. And if that happens, then all the money you spent collecting those emails will be wasted. After you send those emails, the next milestone will be your launch. Send 1 email in the morning and 1 email in the evening. Yes, 2 emails in 1 day. Once you launch, it's okay to email your list a lot more because you have something to sell. If you do this right, you'll blow past your funding goal on the very first day, and in most cases, it will happen in minutes. That flood of backers will shoot you up in the rankings on Kickstarter, which will bring you more visibility to your campaign. And I'm talking about a lot more visibility. Usually between 20 to 30% of the total funding amount will be from Kickstarter itself. For example, for Botany, it was actually 31%, which meant that over $334,000 was sent by Kickstarter, which is honestly bonkers. Now, once you get funded quickly, make sure you take a minute to celebrate, but not for too long. You still have a lot more time left in your campaign and a lot more opportunity to raise even more money, which brings us to step 12, driving traffic with meta ads, part 2. Yep, we're talking about meta ads again, because in nearly every big campaign you see, the driving force of continued funding is from meta ads. So let's talk about how they work and how you can use them. Unlike the pre-launch, where you have to predict your return on ad spend, once you are live, you can see exactly how much money you are making for every dollar you are spending on advertising. That means you can now make decisions on increasing or decreasing your ad budget much more easily. One of the easiest advertising wins you can get will be to set up remarketing. Remarketing is where you target people who you have already marketed to in the past. For example, I recommend remarketing to your entire pre-launch email list. Some of you may be saying, why should I advertise to people who already signed up on my email list? This is part of what I call the surround sound strategy. When you launch, you want to be everywhere. Doing this will ensure that people who sign up on your list won't miss your launch. For example, take a look at the remarketing efforts for Vava, who ended up generating a 30 times return on ad spend from remarketing to their list. Let's pull up one of the ads that was used to do this. As you can see, the copy directly speaks to the VIPs. Hey Vava 4K laser projector VIPs. You'll want to do something similar. Now, this ad was super effective. We spent a little over $3,500 on this ad and generated over $107,000 in direct revenue. After remarketing, you can try to attract completely new people to your campaign. Let's start by talking about 2 audiences you should target. First, a lookalike audience of your VIP list, and second, your best performing pre-launch audiences. To create a lookalike audience of your VIP list, just upload it to Meta and it will create it for you. A lookalike audience is when Meta takes a seed audience, in this case your VIP list, and then creates a completely new audience with similar interests and demographic information. This is a way to fast track the audience creation process and let Meta do a lot of the work for you. Next, let's talk about the ad copy. There are a few copy tactics you can use. First, social proof, like how overfunded your campaign is. Second, reviews like testimonials or press mentions. And third, hyperbole, where you lean into a favorite feature and use a very strong adjective like insane, ultimate, or genius. For example, check out this ad from our campaign for Lomi, which raised over $7.2 million. We leaned into social proof by saying it had already raised $2 million. And this ad got a 4.77 times return on ad spend. All right, now you understand how to use meta ads to keep boosting your campaign. Let's dive into the next step, using PR and influencer marketing. Have you ever been to a restaurant and heard someone ask the server, hey, what do you recommend? How often did that person go with what the server recommended? Nearly every time, right? That's because humans are heavily influenced by the recommendations of others, even if that person is a complete stranger. And the data backs this up. 90% of people claim to trust a brand more when it's recommended by others. Again, even if those people are complete strangers. This is why PR and influencer marketing works so well. Trusted third parties will make a recommendation about your product, and other people will buy your product because of it. So how do you do it? Well, PR and influencer marketing are a little bit different from one another, so we'll tackle each one at a time. Let's start with influencers. Influencers come in all sizes, so let's talk about the different types out there. As you can see, there are 5 main types of influencers ranging from nano to mega, all separated by how many followers they have. Now, here's the thing. While mega, macro, and mid-tier influencers might seem more enticing because of their follower count, I recommend setting your sights on micro and nano influencers. Why? Because micro and nano influencers are 1, easier to reach, 2, typically have much higher engagement, 3, specialize in specific topics or industries, and 4, are more open to commission agreements. So for all those reasons, micro and nano influencers often deliver a much higher return on investment than their counterparts with more followers. But wait, how do you go about finding these influencers? Well, for example, let's say you're launching a travel backpack like the Nomadic Travel Bag campaign. Here's how I'd go about finding influencers. Start with YouTube. Search for travel backpack reviews and boom, you'll find a list of YouTube channels that you can reach out to. You could do the same thing on TikTok or Instagram. Once you've found your influencers, it's time to reach out. But how do you make your outreach stand out from the crowd? Well, when reaching out, keep it personal instead of formal. Compliment the influencer's work and explain why your product aligns with their audience. But here's a reality check. Influencers rarely work for free, so be prepared to invest something. Based on Shopify's recent data, the going rate is about $100 per 10,000 followers. But here's a little secret. Nano and micro influencers are more open to commission agreements. So consider setting up a Kickbooster account, which will allow you to easily set up an affiliate program for your Kickstarter campaign. Not every influencer will say yes, but when they do, it's like having a trusted partner that you only have to pay when you get a sale. All right, now let's move on to PR. First thing you'll want to do is create a press kit. This is simply a collection of assets that journalists and media outlets want. It's honestly really easy to make. Create a folder on something like Google Drive or Dropbox and fill it with photos and videos of your product. Then place it at the bottom of your campaign page and link to it. For example, here's what it looked like on the campaign page for EcoTrek, a client of ours who raised over $514,000. If we click on the press kit, you can see a collection of images that press could use in their articles. With the press kit made, it's now time to reach out to some journalists. But how do you know who to reach out to? The easiest way to figure out who to reach out to is to go to campaigns who have the same audience as you and see who covered them. For example, let's say you have an outdoor product that would appeal to EcoTrek's audience who I just showed you. You could go to their campaign page and see who they were featured by. EcoTrek got covered by Men's Journal, Outside Magazine, Forbes, Gear Junkie, and a few others. Next, let's go to Google and find these articles. For example, I can type in EcoTrek Gear Junkie and see that an article pops up. Let's click on it, then click on the journalist's name, then click on one of his social profiles. I'll choose LinkedIn. And from here, you can send the journalist a message. Remember, outreach is a numbers game. Not everyone will respond, but the more you reach out, the higher the chance of getting coverage. All right, now with your PR and influencer marketing strategy locked down, let's keep this momentum going with step 14, boosting your campaign. All right, I'm gonna tell you something not a lot of people like to talk about. There's a period in many crowdfunding campaigns we lovingly call the Valley of Death. Maybe a little dramatic, but there's a reason why it got this name. It's normal for campaigns to get a lot of funding at the beginning and at the end of the campaign. The middle part is the valley, where it can be easy to lose momentum. So here are 3 tactics to help you avoid this valley of death. The first is cross promotions. This is where you reach out to other live Kickstarter campaigns to see if they want to promote you and vice versa. How this works is you'll include each other in one of your campaign updates. For example, here's what some of the cross promotions look like for our client's campaign for Alpha Shovel. As you can see, they included the Pocket Samurai at the end of one of their campaign updates, and the Pocket Samurai did the exact same thing for Alpha Shovel. All in all, cross promotion partners like Pocket Samurai drove nearly $10,000 in sales for the Alpha Shovel campaign. The second tactic is backer newsletters. These are companies that have their own backer communities that you can promote to. There are actually quite a lot of these newsletters, and some are definitely better than others. For example, ones that I've seen work really well right now are First Backer from Jellup, Pledgebox's newsletter, and Backer Many. Make sure you do a little research before you go with one and try to only work with newsletters that work on commission or have a very low fee, like a few $100s. The third tactic is platform promotions. This one really depends on which platform you launch on. On Kickstarter, there is no way to pay for promotions. Indiegogo, on the other hand, will gladly talk to you about different promotions they have and how much they cost. But let's go back to Kickstarter. One of the best ways to get promoted is to first get the coveted Project I Love badge. Not only does it look great, but it also gets you more visibility on on Kickstarter. I already know what you're thinking, how do I get that badge? Well, here's exactly what Kickstarter's team has told me to focus on. First, create something that is truly innovative and unique, and second, design a very aesthetically pleasing campaign page. Lastly, it's more likely you can get the badge if you get introduced to someone on their team, and as a Kickstarter certified expert ourselves, we may be able to help make that happen. All right, with the valley of death avoided, it's time to move on to step 15, finishing your campaign strong. We're approaching the finish line, but you don't want to celebrate just yet. I mean, we've all seen what can happen from that. Instead, you're going to sprint through the finish line. There are two areas you want to focus on here. The first is email marketing, and the second is meta advertising. Starting with your email list, there are 3 emails you want to send. One will be sent 3 days before you end, and the final 2 emails will be sent on your last day. That's right, you should send 2 emails on the final day, one in the morning and one in the evening. If you have Kickstarter exclusives, you'll want to talk about those in your emails. The second tactic is meta ads again. Yes, I'm only bringing it up one more time because you'll want to change your strategy a little bit here. First off, who should you target with your ads? Well, besides continuing to target audiences that are still working from before, I'd start remarketing again. Again, remarketing is when you target people that you've already marketed to in the past. Here are the different remarketing audiences I would target. 1, your entire email list, and 2, everyone who went to your Kickstarter page and did not buy. For your ad copy and ad creative, you'll want to update the messaging a little bit. The main change will be to lean into urgency since the campaign will be ending soon. For example, let's pull up this ad from our campaign for Vava, which raised over $2.1 million. As you can see, we leaned heavily into the limited time remaining in the campaign by using phrases like ending soon and last chance. Do the same thing for your campaign and you'll finish your campaign strong, bringing in a spike of funding and sending your campaign to new heights. But just because your campaign has now officially ended doesn't mean you can't keep raising funds, because now it's time to move on to step 16, setting up late pledges. So you made it past the finish line, now what? Well, for one, it's time to make your product. But while you're making your product, why not continue to make sales? Well, that's where Kickstarter late pledges come into play. By turning on late pledges, you can continue to make sales on your Kickstarter campaign. For example, Masters of Realms turned on late pledges immediately when the campaign ended. The campaign looks basically the same as the live campaign, except now there is no timeline. Here are 3 tips to keep in mind when setting it up. 1, announce late pledges in a campaign update. Let everyone know that they can still back the campaign if they missed out. Second, make your late pledge rewards a slightly worse deal than your live campaign. One of the main incentives for people to back your live campaign is typically to take advantage of some type of deal. This could be a discount or a limited exclusive item, and it's a best practice to not offer the same deals to late pledges. That way, you can make sure that the people who supported you early are rewarded the most. Third, if you're using late pledges, don't set up another store. I've seen some creators want to set up Kickstarter late pledges, a pledge manager pre-order shop, and their own e-commerce store thinking they will cast a wider net and get more sales. But actually, the opposite happens. Treat Kickstarter late pledges as your one pre-order store while you're creating your product. Drive all traffic to this page. This will make potential backers less confused and make it way easier for you to manage fulfillment. Lastly, it's important to note that with Kickstarter late pledges, the backer's credit card is charged immediately. This is unlike your live campaign where backers' credit cards are charged when your campaign ends. This is a good thing. It means you'll get a steady stream of cash flow while you manufacture and fulfill your product. And now with late pledges all set up, there's only one more thing to do. Step 17, use a pledge manager. By this point, you'll have hundreds, thousands, or maybe even tens of thousands of customers who can't wait to receive your product. And there's one thing that will make delivering your product to these customers way easier. That thing is called a pledge manager. You see, when someone backs your campaign, they don't actually give you much information besides their name and email and whatever reward they chose. You're missing some really important stuff like their shipping address or what variants like size or color of your product they want. That's where Pledge Manager comes in. It allows you to easily get all this information from your backers after your Kickstarter campaign ends. Broadly speaking, you have 2 options when it comes to choosing a pledge manager. First, Kickstarter itself. At the time of creating this video, the native pledge manager on Kickstarter is very basic, but I wouldn't be surprised if they release a more feature-rich pledge manager soon. By the time you watch this, they may have one, so make sure you check on their website. The second option is third-party pledge managers, essentially other companies that offer pledge management software. Again, at the time of making this video, the third-party pledge managers are the best in my opinion. For example, I'd go check out pledgemanager.com, who is currently the official partner of Kickstarter. Regardless of which pledge manager you choose, here are some tips tips. First, use your pledge manager to sell more product. This is one of the most powerful parts of a pledge manager. Because you are already asking backers to do important stuff like confirming their shipping address and choosing variant information, why not see if they'd like to buy anything else? Put in all your add-ons from your campaign, and if you don't have any more add-ons, just put your main product for sale again at a discounted rate. By the way, every time we've used this upsell feature, backers always buy more stuff, which makes it a no-brainer in my book. Second, charge for shipping on your pledge manager and not on Kickstarter. That's right, I do not recommend charging for shipping during your live Kickstarter campaign. Instead, use the pledge manager to charge for shipping after. Charging for shipping later will ensure you are able to charge the most accurate rates based on backers' validated delivery addresses. Third, charge taxes on your pledge manager. If you're wondering if you have to pay taxes on the money you get from Kickstarter, the answer is yes. It is recognized as income, and if you're in the US, even the individual states are going to want their cut. A good pledge manager will make charging for taxes based on location very easy, so make sure you set that up. All right, now that you have an overview of the complete Kickstarter marketing strategy, let's get into the first deep dive video going over how to create high converting product imagery. Product imagery isn't just important, it's crucial to creating a viral Kickstarter campaign and getting people to back your product. Think about it. These images put your product in its best light and tell its story without saying a word. Great imagery brings your product's positioning to life. It's not just a picture, it's a visual sales pitch. All with a flash, it captures your product's every feature, every benefit, and every potential use. From ads to your campaign page, these images are your frontline warriors in the marketing battlefield. And here's the kicker. Crafting these images is essential, but it's actually not rocket science. With the right approach, you can capture the essence of your product and make it irresistible to backers. But before you're ready to launch a campaign and get backing, you'll need to know the different types of product photography first. Time to explore the different types of product photography that can transform your product into a visual hit. First up, we've got the studio style product photos. Think of these as the glamour shots for your product. Studio shots are all about highlighting every angle and feature of your masterpiece. They're typically taken against a plain background to make sure that your product steals the spotlight. Within the studio style, there are two categories you want to capture. First up, whole product shots. These showcase your whole product from different angles, including straight on, 45-degree angle, profile, and even the back. Just take a look at these stunning studio shots from our campaign for Author Clock. These precise angles and clear features helped raise the Author Clock over $2.2 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. These whole product shots help potential backers get a comprehensive view of your product's design and features. They build trust and excitement, just like they did for the Author Clock. Next, we have feature shots. These close-up shots focus on each key feature of your product, helping to highlight what makes it unique. Usually, you'll get between 2 and 5 shots in total when you're taking feature shots, but if you have more features, just get more photos. Here's a glimpse of some feature shots from our Pepper Cannon campaign, which raised over $3 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. These shots allowed backers to zoom in on the details that made the product special, because with feature shots, each key feature gets its moment. Now let's talk about location photos. These shots showcase your product in its intended environment, giving potential customers a taste of what it's like to own and use your product. Ask yourself, who's going to use my product and where would they use it? The answer to these questions should be crystal clear if you've nailed down your product positioning. In our Author Clock campaign, for example, we aimed for an environment like bedrooms in places around the house where consumers are likely to use it. Moving on to action shots. These are perfect for highlighting features that best shine through motion or interaction. Action shots can be both photos and videos. For example, we used video to showcase the Pepper Cannon and its efficiency in action, which raised a whopping $3 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo in demand, proving that pictures aren't the only thing worth 1,000 words. Videos are highly effective too. The key is to focus on the action and make its benefit as clear as possible. These shots can make or break your campaign's appeal, because in the end, it's all about telling your product story in the most visually appealing way, which means you need to know. Now, I get it. Not everyone has a professional studio or a big budget for product photography, but Fear not, with the technology we have today, it's easier than ever to create jaw-dropping photos without breaking the bank. Here are some practical steps for building your very own DIY at-home photography studio. First things first, your background. Your choice of background plays a crucial role in making your product the star of the show while simplifying the editing process. For most products, a white or light backdrop works wonders. It helps remove the unwanted objects and makes retouching a breeze. And the best part, you don't need to splurge on a fancy backdrop. You can order a shooting table or make your own chair-mounted sweep using white craft paper. Just tape it to the wall above your chair and you've got yourself a clean transition between vertical and horizontal planes for your product. Another budget-friendly option is a light tent, also known as a light box. These are great for achieving even lighting around your product. Just grab a plastic storage container, cover it with white paper, and place artificial lights on the sides. And voila, you've got yourself a DIY light tent. Step number 2, set up your product. Now that you have your backdrop sorted, it's time to bring your product into the spotlight. It may seem straightforward, but perfecting the angle, lighting, and positioning of your product can take a few tries. Start by placing your product in the front of the backdrop, making sure that it's centered and on a flat, stable surface like a table or chair. If you're shooting jewelry or other accessories, it's better to use a bust that better displays your product. And for items with labels or special designs, you may need to spend some time adjusting the product until it's precisely centered. Now, if you're shooting smaller, more intricate products, here are a few tips that might be helpful. Glue dots and tape for keeping small products in place, such as earrings or necklaces, mannequins for clothing and accessories, hangers or eye-catching flat lay for displaying products at different angles, and don't hesitate to bring in a friend or coworker to model or help create fun lifestyle shots. Step 3, adjust your lighting. Lighting is one of the most important components of product photography. It can make or break your images. For lighting, you have two main options, natural or artificial light. If you're on a budget, natural light is your best friend. For the best natural lighting, shoot during the day when the sun is at its peak for optimal results. If your shoot is indoors, position your setup near a window with plenty of natural sunlight. You can even use a light sheet to diffuse any intense light that gets in, but if you have a bit more to spend, consider investing in softbox lights. They help soften shadows and give you more control over your lighting, but position them strategically. You'll want one as your key light in front of your product and another as your fill light on the opposite side. And don't forget to document your setup for consistency. Step number 4, use a tripod. To get crisp, detailed images that capture every detail of your product, you'll want to get a high depth of field. To get this, you'll want to set your camera to low aperture and a slow shutter speed. But holding your camera steady with a slow shutter speed is a challenge. That's where a tripod comes to the rescue, ensuring your shots are sharp and blur-free. Step 5, picking the right camera. Now, this one might seem like a no-brainer, but it's worth mentioning. Don't feel like you need to break the bank on a fancy DSLR if you're just starting out or on a tighter budget. Most smartphones like iPhones have impressive cameras these days, so experiment with your backdrop and lighting to get that perfect shot. But if you are looking to invest in a DSLR, here are some camera settings to consider. Adjust your white balance to the same Kelvin temperature as your studio lights. Set your aperture depending on the type of photo you're taking. Looking to leave some parts of your product out of focus? Then set your camera to a wider aperture. Want a sharp focused look? Set it to a smaller aperture for a wider depth of field. Turn your flash setting to off since you'll have already adjusted for natural or artificial light. Set your camera to the highest quality image setting. If your camera has it, choose RAW, but if not, choose the largest JPEG setting. Document your settings for future reference. 6, take multiple pictures and evaluate. Your first shots may not be perfect, and that's okay. Take lots of shots from different angles, distances, and positions to find the best one. Then review them on a computer for accuracy and consider using photo editing software like Adobe Lightroom. Step number 7, retouch your pictures. Here's why. Post-production is where good photos become great. Even if you captured some shots you really like as is, a little retouching can elevate them to professional quality. This step allows for color correction, object removal, and lighting adjustments. Trust me, it's worth the effort. Finally, optimize your images for the web. High quality images are essential, but they can slow down your website. So use free minifying tools to strike a balance between quality and page load speed. Don't forget to optimize image names, metadata, and keywords for better search rankings. Now, for those of you who prefer to leave it to the pros, here are a few product photography services that can help you in your search. Platforms like productphotography.com offer a hassle-free experience. Just fill out an order form online, ship your products, and their photographers will work their magic, sending you the images online. Thumbtack is a fantastic resource to find professional product photographers within your budget. You can browse photographer profiles, check ratings, and view their portfolios to see which one's the best fit for your product. And finally, SquareShot. With locations in major cities, this platform allows you to ship your products to their studio for high-quality images, which makes it a convenient option for businesses of all sizes. Whether you're on a tight budget or ready to invest in professional services, remember that great images are key to showcasing your brand or products effectively. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm teaching in this video, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. This book will teach you how to bring your product idea to life step by step. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 239 reviews. And I just released a new edition in August of 2023 where both the CEO of Kickstarter and the CEO of Indiegogo endorsed it. Anyways, you can get it on Kindle, print, or even audiobook that I recorded myself. I'll leave a link for you to check it out in the corner of this video and in the description below. Anyway, on to how to get photorealistic renderings made. Photorealistic renderings are computer-generated images that look incredibly real. You've probably seen them all over the place in marketing, and the best part is you can create them more quickly and affordably than traditional photo shoots. Take a look at these renderings from Launchboom campaigns we've done in the past. These are not photos. They're digital creations that are almost indistinguishable from the real stuff. And guess what? They can be a game changer for your marketing efforts. With photorealistic renderings, you can control every detail of your product's appearance, from materials to lighting and environment. This means that you can craft the perfect image that showcases your product's best features. Photorealistic renderings are also fantastic when your prototype isn't quite photo ready. With renderings, you can kickstart your pre-launch marketing while your real product is in development. It's a brilliant way to save time and speed up your launch. But while we're on the subject, let's shatter a common misconception: the idea that consumers won't buy products showcased with photorealistic renderings. That, my friends, is simply not true. We've seen it firsthand as Launchboom has successfully launched 3 campaigns using 100% photorealistic renderings, driving a staggering $2.6 million in pre-sale revenue. So don't let anyone tell you that renderings can't perform in marketing campaigns. They're more than capable of driving substantial revenue. Now let's get practical. To get started with photorealistic renderings, you'll need to create a shot list. This list should include different renderings you want to be created. At the very least, you should create renderings from the same angles as your studio style photography. You can also request renderings in various lifestyle settings to showcase your product in action. Additionally, you should provide reference material. This is a folder of images featuring other products that capture the style and feel you want for your renderings. It helps the 3D render artist understand your vision and bring it to life. Now, here's an important note. Creating photorealistic renderings is a specialized skill, so as much as I'm a champion of doing things yourself, I recommend hiring a 3D render artist for this one. A simple Google search will reveal numerous 3D render artists out there, but choosing the right one can be overwhelming. So here's what I recommend. First, consider using platforms like Upwork, the largest freelance marketplace out there. You can post a job and within 24 hours, you could be working with a skilled 3D render artist. Another option is Launchboom Experts, where we maintain a list of vetted contractors and companies we've extensively worked with on projects like 3D rendering. Our clients even receive discounted rates, making it a cost-effective choice. But if you want to go a different route with your product imagery, you could also learn. AI-generated product images are a game changer in the world of marketing. They allow you to quickly create high-quality visuals that save you both time and money. Whether you're a small business or a larger corporation, these tools can revolutionize your marketing efforts. Take a look at these incredible images from past marketing campaigns. What's fascinating is that some of these images were generated by AI and they look absolutely stunning. If you're looking to create amazing product imagery with AI, there are a couple options I'd recommend. Let's start with Flare AI, an innovative design tool that allows you to create marketing images effortlessly. Here's how you can harness the power of Flare AI. Step 1, upload a product photo. Start by uploading a photo of your product to Flare AI. This photo will serve as the foundation for generating more images. Step 2, remove background. Within the Flare AI interface, click on your product photo and go to the Edit tab. Here, you'll find the Remove Background button. Click it and Flare AI will automatically analyze and remove the background from your image. Step 3, resize and rotate. Flare AI makes it easy to resize and rotate your product photos. Simply adjust the corners to resize and use the top vertex to rotate the object. Ensure it fits perfectly within the frame. Step 4, choose a style. After uploading your product photo, you can select a style for the generated images. Flare AI offers a wide range of styles to choose from, or you can provide a prompt to edit background. Step 5, customize the images. You have the freedom to modify the background, lighting, and other elements of the generated images. Change background colors, textures, or upscale the image to 2K resolution. Step 6, download the images. Once the images are generated, you can download them and use them for marketing, e-commerce, or social media. But what if you want to create a product photo shoot using AI generated images? You can provide a prompt that includes key details like the subject, placement, surroundings, and background or environment. Now let's explore option 2, Photoshop AI. This is a powerful tool that utilizes machine learning AI to generate, edit, and remove image elements effortlessly. Here's how you can use it. For one, you can extend images with Photoshop AI. If you need to fill empty spaces in your image, select the rectangular marquee tool and create a selection around the edges of the canvas. Extend the selection to include some original pixels and click the generative fill button. Photoshop AI will then analyze and extend your image based on existing pixels. Next, you can generate backgrounds with Photoshop AI or replace backgrounds in your images. Just select your subject, click the generative fill button, and enter the desired background, and Photoshop AI will seamlessly replace the background. Now let's say you want to add realistic objects to your images. Use the lasso tool to draw a selection, then click the generative fill button and enter a prompt. Photoshop AI will create the object and incorporate it naturally into your image. And if you need to remove unwanted elements from your photos, select the object, click generative fill, and generate. Photoshop AI will seamlessly remove the object and blend the surroundings.
With your product imagery now in hand, you can now move on to creating your landing page. This is how you can collect email signups from people who are interested in your launch and is key to a successful campaign. This landing page was critical in helping Jeremy from Catty Corner raise over $100,000 on Kickstarter the very first day. And by the end of this video, this landing page can be yours because I'm gonna show you how Jeremy made his landing page in 5 simple steps. And don't skip any of them because if you do, your landing page will be way less effective. I'll also be revealing a bonus strategy that Jeremy used to make his landing page perform way better than typical ones. But before I tell you that, you gotta understand what a landing page is. And don't worry, this won't be some drawn out explanation. I'm actually gonna do it in 10 seconds. So let's pull up a timer, go. A landing page is a website that has more information about your project and only has one goal. In the case of your pre-launch on Kickstarter, that goal will be to collect email addresses of people interested in your launch. That's it. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the first step to making a perfect landing page. Now, the backbone of a good landing page is well-written content, and the first step to writing great content is to create an outline. Now, bolded lists work great here, so don't worry about making things sound really good because we'll get to that later. For example, here's what the outline for Catty Corner's landing page looked like. As you can see, it's good to pose some questions because it makes writing the outline faster and easier. So we first posed the question, how would you describe your product? And that led us to quickly write out basic things like a side table that protects your couch from cats scratching it and fits on nearly any sofa because of the modular design. Then we posed the question, what are the key features? Let's zoom in on the first key feature for Catty Corner's outline, cat scratching surface built into a side table. We further broke that down by asking the question, how does this benefit the target audience? You can see 2 bullets listed out here, protects sofa from being damaged by cats and saves cat owner time and money. Outlining the answers to these questions first made it way easier for Jeremy to move on to step number 2. This is where you write your hero section content. The hero section is the first part of your landing page and the most important. That's because it's the hook. Its goal is to grab the attention of the visitor to your page and make them want to keep reading. Just remember to keep it concise. For example, here's what the hero section looked like for Catty Corner. As you can see, the hero section is made up of 2 parts, a headline and supporting content. You want the headline to be attention-grabbing and descriptive, and don't be afraid to be bold here with your language. For Catty Corner, they went with the perfect sidekick for cat and couch. And this headline states how Catty Corner is different. Plus, it's bold. It's not just a sidekick for cats and couches, it's the
perfect sidekick, which packs a lot more punch. Now the supporting copy should expand on the headline. For example, here's what Jeremy wrote. Give your couch and your kitty the love they deserve with Catty Corner, the innovative side table that not only protects your sofa from scratchy little paws, but also encourages your feline friend to indulge in their natural instincts, keeping them happy and your furniture safe. This really drives home the main benefit of the product and hooks visitors to want to keep reading, which brings us to step number 3. The headlines are super important to get right since most visitors just skim your landing page, so they won't read much more than the headlines anyways. Here's where you'll take the topics from your outline and turn them into clear headlines that are easy to read and understand. For example, here's what it looked like for Catty Corner. Jeremy took the outline and wrote out 4 different headlines for 4 different sections on the page. Those headlines were 1, got a sofa, got a cat, we've got your solution. 2, perfect fit for any sofa. 3, keep it handy, keep it classy. And 4, no matter your style, Catty Corner has you covered. These were all topics that Jeremy wanted to expand upon more on the landing page. Oh, and real quick, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm talking about, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. It's the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 265 reviews. And I published the new edition in August of 2023, where the CEO of Kickstarter and Indiegogo endorsed it. Anyways, you can pick it up on Kindle, print, or audiobook that I recorded myself. The link to check it out is in the corner of this video and in the description below. All right, let's get back to step number 4. This is where you fill in the body content, which is the text that supports each headline. I recommend keeping the body section to 2 sentences max. Remember, most visitors will skim your site, so keep it short. Here's what it looked like for Catty Corner. If we look at the first section, you can see how Jeremy supported it with the following body content. Our Catty Corner lets your feline friend scratch away to their heart's content on its special surface, saving your beloved couch from those notorious claw marks. Short and to the point, while still helping the viewer get a more complete understanding of the topic that the headline brought up. All right, we're almost there. Let's move on to step number 5. The best visuals for your landing page will be photos, and those photos are typically a mix of studio shots, location shots, and action shots. Now, studio shots are like the glamour shots of product photography. They're shot on plain white or colored background, and you'll highlight every angle and feature. Location shots highlight the places where people will use your product, and action shots showcase how people, or cats, will use your product. You'll then take these photos and add them to your landing page. Choose photos that complement the headline and body content. For example, let's pull up Catty Corner's final landing page and go through each of the visual assets used. In the hero section, Jeremy has a nice action shot of a cat using the product. In the next section, he visualizes the problem he's solving with 2 great photos. Next up is a GIF of different location shots, which works great when you want to showcase multiple images. Next up, a close-up of the side table feature, and lastly, another GIF showing how Catty Corner works with all different styles of homes and sofas. So now you might be wondering, how in the world do I build this landing page? Well, if you're working with us at LaunchBoom, you'll be able to build your landing page using LaunchKit. This is our all-in-one software tool featuring an easy-to-use landing page builder, detailed analytics, and AI-driven copywriting assistance, all designed specifically for crowdfunding. But if you're looking for alternatives, there are other options as well. For example, you can take a look at funnel building software like Lead Pages or ClickFunnels. All right, we've completed the last step, but don't think I forgot about that bonus tip I mentioned at the beginning of the video. You just learned how to build the perfect landing page for Kickstarter, which will allow you to start collecting email addresses. But here's the thing, only collecting email addresses is not the best way to prepare for a launch. You see, if you only collect email addresses, it's pretty hard to tell how committed someone on your email list is to actually buying your product when you launch. I learned this the hard way about 10 years ago when I started launching projects. You see, we'd spend a bunch of money on pre-launch marketing, building an email list, and get a really cheap cost per email. But when we went to launch, most people didn't buy. Why? Because it's virtually impossible to know who is the most interested in your Kickstarter using only a landing page. But it all changed when we added a step after someone gave us their email. We call this step the reservation page. The idea is simple. After someone gives their email address on a landing page, we present something special in exchange for $1. This could technically be anything, but the best offers give something valuable like a heavily discounted add-on. And the idea is to create a win-win. Potential backers get something valuable for $1, and you, the creator, get to know who is most interested in your project. That's because we found that those that put down $1 in the pre-launch are 30 times more likely to back your project on average. This is super valuable information to understand because it lets you know if your marketing dollars are being spent on people who actually want to buy your product, and knowing that will make it much more likely you'll have a successful launch. With your landing page set up, it's time to drive traffic to the page. The next tutorial is a deep dive into meta ads, which, as you know, is one of the primary ways you'll attract backers to your campaign. Today, I'm gonna show you how to create Facebook ads that sell like crazy, including an easy way to actually make the ad creative. And by the end of this video, I'll take you from absolute beginner to knowing more about Facebook ads than 99% of the world. Before we get into the Facebook ad strategy, I have to briefly explain the overall Kickstarter marketing strategy. That way, when I talk about the Facebook ad strategy, it will make a lot more sense. The Kickstarter marketing strategy isn't that complicated. You can break it down into 3 phases. The first phase is the pre-launch. This phase is all about building an email list of buyers before you launch your campaign. You'll create a reservation funnel, which will allow you to collect email addresses, but more importantly, $1 reservation deposits from people who cannot wait to buy your product. You'll use Facebook ads here to build your email list. The second phase is the launch. This is where you'll use your email list you just built to get funded on the very first day of your campaign. This will rocket your campaign up in the rankings on Kickstarter, which lets you tap into their 22 million person backer community and raise even more. You'll use Facebook ads here to continue the momentum and drive more customers to your campaign. The third phase is the post-launch. This is where you'll manufacture and fulfill your product you just launched on Kickstarter. But you'll also continue to take pre-orders using something like Indiegogo In Demand, BackerKit, or your Shopify store. You'll use Facebook ads here to continue driving customers to your pre-order store. As you can see, Facebook ads are key to driving traffic through all 3 phases of a Kickstarter campaign. And now with that understood, let's move on to Facebook ads 101. To start, you want to set a clear objective with what you're trying to achieve with your Facebook ads. When you're starting out, choosing an objective is actually pretty simple. You always want your objective to be about someone taking an action. Stay away from brand awareness campaigns. I promise you that Zuck is the only person making money from these type of campaigns. There are really only 3 objectives that matter when it comes to Facebook ads and your Kickstarter campaign. The first, getting someone to give you their email to be notified when you launch your Kickstarter. The second, getting someone to put down a $1 deposit to reserve an exclusive launch deal. Or the third, getting someone to buy your product once you've launched. That's it. You only want to focus on one objective at a time, and which objective you choose depends on which phase of your Kickstarter campaign you are in. During the pre-launch, your objective is to get emails and $1 deposits. During the launch, your objective is to get purchases. And during the post-launch, your objective is also to get purchases. Humans can only process one thought at a time, so it's important to keep it simple and stay laser focused on one objective during each phase of your campaign. Next, you need to understand who will you be targeting with your ads. That means understanding who your customer actually is. What are their interests? What are their demographics? What are their problems? In a way, targeting the right audience is like planning the ultimate party. The guests are the most important part, right? Imagine trying to invite everyone on the planet to your house party. That would be an absolute mess. Instead, try to find your people, the right guests to come by, people who will actually enjoy what you have to offer with your product. Identifying your audience is crucial. You're aiming to be precise with who you're speaking to in order to attract backers who really resonate with your product. You should have a solid idea of their problems, goals, values, and beliefs. You'll also want to understand their characteristics like age, income, and location. Nail this down and you've laid the cornerstone for your Facebook ads. But the work is just starting. The next step in creating the perfect Facebook ad is coming up with the perfect concept and creative for the ad itself. If you simplify it, good ad creative is only made up of 2 things. 1, the ad imagery, like a photo or video, and 2, the ad copy, meaning the text that's used in the ad. Your ad imagery is what stops someone from scrolling their feed to pay attention to you. There are 2 Facebook ad imagery formats that I recommend you test. First are image ads. They're classic, easy to make, and most of all, effective. For these types of ads, focus on making your product the hero of the image. For example, I recommend testing out simple studio shots of your product like you can see here. And I also recommend testing out location-based shots which showcase your product in locations where people would actually use it, like you can see in these ads. A quick tip, as you can probably tell, we love using those little red arrows in our ads. Why? Because they work. So I highly recommend you test them out yourself. Next up, video ads. They are great for storytelling as they have the ability to capture hearts and minds in seconds. Contrary to popular belief, a good video ad does not have to be expensive to make. Most can be made using just your camera on your cell phone and a free editing app. There isn't one formula to make a good video ad though, so here are a few different templates I'd recommend considering. The first is what I call the founder walkthrough template. It's just like how it sounds. It's an ad of the founder walking through how to use the product. Check out how our client Alex, the founder of Zbeck, did this.
What's up guys, Alex here from Zbeck, and today I am super excited to introduce to you the brand new Zbeck Snap. It is a revolutionary new way that we've created for you to be productive on the go like never before. You simply attach this bracket to the back by expanding, pull out our wing, and with our patented Snap technology, you simply connect.
The key is to shoot this video vertically on your phone and have no cuts or edits. You want the video to feel authentic and not like an ad. The next video ad template is what I call the reaction template. Check out how our client CAF Pro did this.
Oh wow, well, that's amazing. Wow. You're able to get a better stretch.
Doing it for like a few seconds, just right away, you can feel it right away, the difference.
Feels like I've never stretched my calf before.
You want to capture the real reactions of people using your product. These authentic reactions can be amazing scroll stoppers. And the last ad template I'll show you in this video is the UGC or user generated content template. Check out how our client from FTL Bag used this one.
Guys, I think I found the best bag in the market. It's perfect for overnight trips, busy days in the city, or a personal item when you travel. It's got this awesome, modern, and sleek aesthetic that looks great everywhere. A gym, an office, a restaurant, you can really bring this bag everywhere. And it's got some of the coolest functionality I've ever seen in a bag. It's got a water bottle holder, dedicated place for your laptop, dedicated section for your shoes, and a garment section with a custom garment bag that snaps in and out.
A UGC style video is what you'd expect an influencer to make if they were talking about your product. It should be written in the first person and focus on the benefits the person in the video is getting by using your product. You can do this yourself or work with a UGC creator. If you're having trouble finding one, I recommend working with a service like Brands Meet Creators because it's free and it works. Now, it's important to remember that when it comes to your ad imagery, there isn't a hard and fast rule about which type works best. You'll want to test different images and videos to see what resonates the most with your audience. All right, that covers the ad imagery. Now we need to talk about the ad copy. That's the text above and below the Facebook ad. Let's actually stay here for a moment on this ad from our client Relic. This is a very typical ad copy template that I recommend you try. You want to start with a bold claim. Here's what makes Relic better than any existing sequencer, matrix, or MIDI controller on the market. Then back that bold claim up with a bolded list of features and benefits. Usually, this list is anywhere between 5 to 7 different items. Lastly, include a call to action. In this case, since this ad was during the pre-launch, Relic told people to reserve now to get an exclusive VIP discount when we launch. This isn't the only copy template you can use for your ads, but it's one I've seen work quite literally thousands of times, so I recommend testing it out. And just like that, you now understand how to make winning ad creative. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm teaching you in this video, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. This book will teach you how to bring your product idea to life step by step. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 237 reviews. And I just released the new edition in August of 2023, where both the CEO of Kickstarter and the CEO of Indiegogo endorsed it. Anyways, you can get it on Kindle, print, or even audiobook that I recorded myself. And so I'll leave a link for you to check it out in the corner of this video and in the description below.
time to show you how to set up your Meta Business Suite. Listen, I get it, Facebook's ads platform can feel like a maze. A lot of people give up on Facebook advertising because they get so overwhelmed by the amount of ad options or they set up their account incorrectly. But don't worry, I'm about to make it easy by showing you the path. To start, head over to business.facebook.com. See that Create Account button, give it a click. Then type in your business name, and your business email. Next up, the ad account. This is where the magic happens. Click on Ads in the left menu and follow the prompts to create a new ad account. Think of this as your Facebook marketing command center. Here's where you have all the tools to navigate the different areas of your business on Meta. Next, we need to create a tracking pixel. Think of a pixel like a secret agent whose job is to tell your Facebook ads what's actually happening on your website. So when someone puts in their email address or purchases your product, the pixel knows and tells your Facebook ads the good news. To do this, you want to go to Datasets, then click Add and name it something descriptive like the name of your product with the word pixel after it. And there we go. We've now set up your Meta Business Suite. It actually wasn't that hard, right? But wait, there's a little bit more work that needs to be done. Now it's time to set up your very first ad campaign. It's important to understand that ads are organized in 3 tiers. There are campaigns, ad sets, and ads. You can imagine these like folders on your computer. Ads are inside ad sets, and ad sets are inside campaigns. With that in mind, let's start by creating your first campaign. First, choose your campaign objective. Remember back to the beginning of this video? The only 2 objectives you care about are leads and purchases. Let's pretend we are in pre-launch for the sake of this tutorial. So we'll be choosing leads. Give your campaign a name, I like to use today's date, and then click Next. Now we go one level deeper to build an ad set. Your ad set is where you set up your budget and choose your audience you're going to target with your ads. But before we do that, you have to choose a conversion location. You'll want to choose website because in all cases with your Kickstarter campaign, you'll always be sending traffic to a website. Leave the performance goal as is. Then make sure that you connect your pixel and also place it on your website. This will ensure that Facebook can track when someone actually completes your objective. Now we go down to budget. How much you want to spend per day is ultimately up to you. A general rule of thumb is that the more you spend, the faster you will learn. But for most people, I'd recommend starting at a lower budget, like $20 per day. Next is where you build your audience. Under Audience Controls, choose the locations you want to target. Then click on Show More Options. I recommend making the minimum age 24, as below that age, people typically don't have much disposable income. Under Languages, choose the language your audience speaks. For most cases, choosing English All is the best choice. Now, under Advantage Plus Audience, you'll want to click on Audience Suggestion. You can further define the age and gender you want to target here. I'm just going to leave it as 24 to 65 in all genders. And now I'm going to move on to detailed targeting. This is where you can tell Facebook interests you want to target. For example, let's say I had a new innovative jacket for the outdoors. I think my target audience would be interested in outdoor activities. So first I'll put in hiking, then I'll put in camping. Next, I'll click on Suggestions. This is where Facebook will give me suggested interests to also target. I'll go through and add a few more, like hiking equipment, backpacking, and climbing. Here's a very important tip. You can further narrow your audiences by more interests. This is where it says must also match. I almost always recommend you put crowdfunding, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo here. This will make sure that the audience you're targeting has heard of these websites before, which will only make them more qualified. Ideally, your audience size should be around 5 to 15 million people. So we're good here and can now move on. Under Placements, open it up and uncheck Audience Network and Messenger. Then click Next to move on to actually building your ad. First step here is to choose both your Facebook page and Instagram account. Underneath Ad Creative, upload your image or video creative. Then move on to your primary text, headline, and description. For the call to action, you can change it if you want, but learn more usually works pretty well. Now let's move on to the destination. put in the website URL you are sending people to. This will either be your landing page if you are in the pre-launch, or your Kickstarter page if you are in the launch phase. Underneath tracking, make sure you are tracking the correct event. And after that, finally, you can press publish. Once Facebook approves your ads, it is showtime. All right, guys, we've almost made it. We're at the last step of the blueprint, testing and optimization. Learning how to set up a campaign on Facebook was very important, but knowing how to test and optimize your ads over time is crucial if you want to actually see success. When it comes to Facebook advertising, it is not a set it and forget it type of thing. You need to tweak and refine to get the best results. Now, to optimize something, you need to understand what exactly you are optimizing for, right? Well, remember that objective you chose for your campaign. That is what you are optimizing for. If it's leads, you are trying to optimize for the lowest cost per lead. If it's $1 deposits, you are trying to optimize for the lowest cost per $1 deposit. If it's purchases, you are trying to optimize for the lowest cost per purchase. You'll want to be patient even if you're not seeing conversions right away. Do not rush to change your ads or pull the plug too soon. Facebook's algorithm can be a bit of a slow cooker to start because it's still learning who's most interested in your product, but it typically gets better with time. Facebook will actually automatically adjust the spend on ads depending on the objective you give it. With that said, it's not perfect, and sometimes it will keep spending on ads that aren't performing. That's when you'll want to take it into your own hands and turn that ad off. When an ad is doing really well though, go ahead and bump the budget up. For example, if you were at $20 per day, bump it up to $40. Let it ride for a few days and see what happens to the performance. If it continues to perform well, bump the budget up again. Lastly, although you do want to keep an eye on performance, you do not have to go crazy checking multiple times a day. Usually once per day is all that's necessary. So keep refining, keep optimizing, and use Facebook's data to lead the way. And soon you'll have a team of winning ads that are bringing you tons of leads or purchases. Your ads are now good to go, so now it's time to start to create your Kickstarter video, which is one of the key marketing assets you'll need to convert visitors into backers on your campaign page. Your Kickstarter video matters kinda a lot. It's the first thing people see when they land on your campaign page. It's your first impression. And if that video doesn't look polished, people won't trust that your product is polished either. A good video has value way beyond being just your campaign video. You can cut it up into GIFs for your campaign page. You can use it for video ads. You can repurpose it for marketing assets for e-commerce down the road. Now, understand that budgets can vary a lot for Kickstarter videos, and spending more doesn't necessarily mean that the video will actually be better. So there's definitely a budget sweet spot, which we'll talk about soon. But first, let's talk about the 5 core video essentials. The foundation of a great video is a great script. And for that reason, the 5 essentials of a great video are really just the 5 essentials of a great script. Now, there isn't one master script that works for every product, but there are 5 foundational elements that nearly every effective Kickstarter video has. Those are 1, the hook, 2, the elevator pitch, 3, feature and benefit list, 4, product summary, and 5, call to action. Let's pull up our client Loka Chai Maker's video who raised over $664,000. I'll show you how they applied all these 5 essentials to their script. Let's start with the hook.
Tired of the mess? Tired of the waiting? Tired of the cost? Or are you just tired of bad chai?
For the hook, they focused on the problem that chai drinkers face and included great imagery to complement each word of their script. Then only 7 seconds into their video, they go to the second essential, the elevator pitch.
Meet the Loka Chai Maker. Making authentic chai at home has never been this easy or this good. We've made the world's best chai user experience. It's easy, convenient, clean, and an absolute joy to use. And it makes the best homemade chai.
In 15 seconds, they presented Loka Chai as the solution to the problem presented in the hook and gave a concise elevator pitch to the audience. People who are still watching by this point believe that Loka might be the right product for them, but they just need some more information. That leads us to the third essential, the feature and benefit list.
The principal obstruction to making chai at home is the mess. So we created the chai fountain, which brews from the outside to the inside, and stops the boil over.
First, they focused on their main feature and showed how its design benefited users with no more messy chai. They then repeated this formula of feature and benefit for the rest of the section, going over the easy to clean ceramic coating, built-in dishwasher safe strainer, and durable construction. This all led to the fourth essential, the product summary.
In order to create the Loka chai maker, which helps you make the perfect cup of chai at home.
We're so excited to show you what we've created. This is going to change the chai game.
They summarize all the features and benefits they just went through with the bold statement, this is going to change the chai game. This is all building up to the fifth and final essential, the call to action.
We found a world-class manufacturing partner, we've started tooling, and now we need your orders to go into production.
So please back us now, and together, let's bring real, authentic, delicious chai to all the homes around the world.
They don't beat around the bush. They tell the viewer to back them now. You'd be surprised how effective a simple statement like back us now can be in getting someone to actually scroll down and click the back this project button. So now that you know the 5 essentials, start to outline your script using the structure. You can make your script more unique and authentic to you by adding your own brand voice, weaving in parts of your own story, or maybe even changing up who's delivering the script throughout the video. Do you like free stuff? Who doesn't like free stuff? Well, I want to give you something for free. If you want to go way deeper into how to launch a Kickstarter campaign, then you can download the audiobook version of my best-selling book, Crowdfunded. It has 4.7 out of 5 stars from 341 reviews on Amazon, where you can buy it right now, or again, you can get the audiobook version for free by clicking the link below. I hope you like it. All right, let's get back to it and answer the question, how much does a Kickstarter video cost? I called up my friend Jack, the founder of Wicked Grit, to help me answer this question. They've made videos for companies like Amazon and Belkin, plus tons of Kickstarter videos, so he knows what he's talking about. Here's what Jack had to say about the sweet spot for budget.
Our range of projects usually range from 6,000 all the way up to 25,000, and we've done projects within that whole range, all the way up to the top. I'd say a fair range is like the 10 to 15K mark. And that's usually like kind of the sweet spot as far as like making a video and what we've seen.
So most campaigns they work with are spending between $10,000 to $15,000 on their video, what Jack calls the sweet spot. But I also wanted to know what things would make a video cost more. Here's what Jack had to say.
If your product requires a complex location to be filmed in, that is something that will drive budget. The type of product you have also sort of dictates budget. If you have a more technology-oriented product, which requires sort of more of an explaining, breakdown using app and graphics, that sort of drives budget. If it's sort of a simple product that doesn't require as much explaining, you can sort of get away with a smaller budget video from an effectiveness standpoint. And obviously graphics. We've had projects where we need to use graphics to sort of like hit out some key points that like are really hard to sort of communicate visually.
Now, I imagine some of you watching are thinking that this $10,000 to $15,000 sweet spot is still way out of your budget. So I also asked Jack how product creators could get the budget lower if they needed to.
We have had situations where like client will provide us footage they shoot. If they're really sort of strapped for budget, the 6-figure option is sort of like something we do where it's like, hey, you send us the footage and we kind of put something together.
All right, so now you have an idea of how much a video typically costs and what drives those costs. But how do you actually go about hiring someone to help you with this video, and what things can you do yourself? All right, so let's start off with the easiest option if you have the budget. The first option is to hire a full-service video production agency. Call up Jack at Wicked Grit. You'll probably pay $10,000 to $15,000 and they'll take care of everything for you, saving you time and potential costs over the long run as you get it done right the first time and can even reuse the assets over the long term. Second, DIY plus freelancers. This is where you can piecemeal things together. Maybe you write the script, you hire a freelance videographer to shoot it, you go on sites like Upwork to find a video editor, you go to voices.com to hire a VO artist. This could be a way to save some cost, but you'll definitely have to spend more time and could run into some issues along the way. The last way is to go 100% DIY. For shooting, you want to consider the following. Use your phone and shoot horizontal. Now, up until recently, I shot all of my YouTube videos using this iPhone 14 Pro, so it's definitely possible. Buy a cheap tripod to keep the shot stable, get a cheap softbox light, and buy an affordable lav microphone like this one right here. Good audio is actually even more important than good video quality, so you'll want to make sure you sound good. For editing, you can use free or low-cost editing software like iMovie, CapCut, or DaVinci. Assuming you have very little experience in video production or editing, going 100% DIY can definitely be a little risky because you'll just have to learn so much. Still, with that said, it can be done. So if it's your only option, I'd say go for it. With all the fundamentals out of the way, you're probably wondering how much all of this will cost you. Well, the next video will get into the main cost categories of a Kickstarter campaign so you can budget effectively. How much does it actually cost to run a successful Kickstarter? I'll be breaking them down in 5 categories and going deep into each one. To show you exactly how this works, I'm gonna share real examples from 3 awesome campaigns we helped launch. Vicious Gardens, which is a board game that raised $555,000 from 9,400 backers. Death's Nest, an innovative cat bed that raised $468,000 from 3,700 backers, and the Loca Chai Maker, which raised $626,000 from 5,900 backers. But before I dive into the 5 cost categories, let's get something out of the way first. When it comes to cost, there's a difference between starting a campaign and running a campaign. So the first question, how much does it cost to start a Kickstarter campaign? Well, it's completely free. That's right, anyone can create a Kickstarter account and launch a campaign without paying a single dollar up front. The only fees you'll pay are after your campaign succeeds, 5% to Kickstarter and 3 to 5% for payment processing. But here's the thing. While starting is free, running a successful campaign is a completely different story. So the more important question is, how much does it cost to run a Kickstarter campaign? Let me show you exactly what I mean using Vicious Gardens as an example. Ross spent 3 years developing this game. He could have just thrown up some basic photos and hoped for the best, but instead he invested in his campaign. The result? Over $500,000 raised. But how much should you invest exactly? Well, it starts with understanding the 5 core cost categories of a successful campaign. Let's begin with the first one, product photography. High quality product photos are absolutely critical to your success on Kickstarter. Let me show you exactly what I mean using our 3 successful campaigns. First, let's look at Vicious Gardens. Ross combined stunning visuals full of character and wit to showcase his game. As a professional designer himself, he knew that beautiful artwork would drive home the game's unique personality. Next, let's look at Death's Nest. Their clean layout and compelling product shots immediately showed how their innovative cat bed sits neatly on a workspace, solving a real problem for cat owners who work from home. And finally, check out the Loca Chai Maker. Their imagery perfectly captures how easy and beautiful it is to use their product and shows exactly how their product solves a real problem. Now let's talk about how much all these photos will cost you. You've got 3 main options: DIY photography from $100 to $600, product photography services from $500 to $1,000, and professional photographers from $750 to $2,500. Let me break down each option. First up, the DIY route. If you absolutely must go the DIY route, you'll need to invest in at least a decent DSLR camera, a tripod, basic lighting, and a white backdrop. Now, total investment will be about $600, but real quick, I will say that most modern smartphones like an iPhone, Samsung Galaxy, or Google Pixel will be able to take pretty great product photos if you practice a bit and you have good lighting. This could save you from having to buy a DSLR camera. Next, let's talk about using a dedicated product photography service. These are companies that have productized their service offerings. For example, a company like Suna can provide professional studio photos for $149 up front and then just $39 for each photo you want. Here's how it works. Ship your product to their studio, direct the shoot remotely in real time, get fully retouched photos back. Next up, hiring a professional photographer. Yes, having a professional photographer is going to typically be more expensive, but in many ways it can be less risky overall. A good professional photographer will act as a creative partner and make sure your product really shines in your photos. Now, typically you can pay photographers for a half or full day of shooting, and they will let you know how many photos they can retouch and send to you after they finish the shoot. Loca Chai Maker used a professional photographer for their campaign, and you can see how good their photos turned out. The investment in professional photography helped convince customers this wasn't just another kitchen gadget, it was a premium solution to a real problem. But regardless of which option you choose, there are certain types of photos you'll always want to get. Think of your product photos like a pyramid. At the base, you need crystal clear studio shots. Think of these like the glamour shots, where you shoot your product on a white or colored backdrop and highlight every angle and feature. In the middle, you need location photos. These are like the studio shots where your product is front and center, but now instead of being on a white background, your product is in the environment that's intended to be used. You want your prospective customer to be able to imagine themselves using it. And at the top, you need action shots showing your product at use. These are best to showcase motion and interaction with your product. For example, look at Vicious Gardens campaign. They showed clear studio shots of the game, location photos showing it on a shelf, and action shots of people actually playing playing the game. Skip any level of this pyramid and your campaign could collapse. Now that you understand product photography costs, let's move on to something equally important, your campaign video. I'm gonna go out and say it. Nowhere have I seen creators waste more money than on the campaign video. I've seen too many overproduced mini documentaries which are more about boosting their ego than actually selling their product. The point of your campaign video is to sell, so it should be thought of like an ad. For instance, take local chai maker's campaign video. Like any great ad, they started it with a great hook.
Tired of the mess? Tired of the waiting? Tired of the cost? Or are you just tired of bad chai?
Then after the hook, they go right into the solution.
Meet the local chai maker. Making authentic chai at home has never been this easy or this good.
Of course, they present Loka Chai as a solution and continue to explain why for the rest of the video. Now, let's talk about how much a campaign video will cost you. You've got three main options. DIY, which is $100 to $500, studio freelancer, which is $1,000 to $5,000, and a professional agency, which is $5,000 to $15,000. First up, shooting it yourself. If you must go the DIY route, here's what you'll need. Use the DSLR camera you bought for your product photos or even your smartphone camera. You'll need a decent lav mic, you'll need basic lighting like a softbox, and a tripod and video editing software. Now, the total investment will probably be around $500. Next up is hiring a student or freelance videographer. This is where a lot of creators can find that sweet spot between quality and cost. Now, when working with a student or a freelancer, you'll typically pay $1,000 to $2,000 for shooting, $500 to $1,000 for editing, and $500 to $2,000 for extra services. Now, the total investment typically comes between $2,000 to $5,000. Finally, let's talk about hiring a professional agency. There are quite a lot of professional video agencies that specialize in crowdfunding videos. That specialization can be really helpful in making sure you get a great video, and they usually offer packages that can bring down the cost versus a more general purpose video production agency. What I really want to make clear here is that some creators spend $50,000 plus on a video, and that's way too much. In fact, spending more than $15,000 on your video usually leads to diminishing returns. And most first-time creators should be spending quite a lot less than that. All right, now you understand video costs, let's move on to something arguably even more important, your campaign page design and copywriting. Hey, real quick, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm talking about, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 326 reviews. I've included a link below to get it free on audiobook. Just click the link in the description and I'll send it to you for free. All right, back to cost category number 3. This is where I see a lot of creators make a huge mistake. Their campaign page is an afterthought when compared to their video. But the thing is, way more people will see your campaign page than your video, which is why I think it's even more important. When it comes to creating a high converting campaign page, you have to get two things right. 1, great copywriting, and 2, great graphic design. Look at how our 3 successful campaigns designed their pages. First, Vicious Gardens. Ross used witty copy and bold visuals to convey the strategic depth of his game. Next, Desk. Their clean layout and compelling headlines immediately communicated how their innovative cat bed solves a real problem for cat owners who work from home. And finally, Loka Chai Maker. Their page beautifully balanced between showing the traditional roots of chai making and their contemporary solution. This represents their brand mission of being rooted in tradition but reimagined for today. Now, let's talk about how much this will cost you. Again, you have 3 main options. DIY from 0 to 100, freelance professionals 1,400 to 3,200, and professional agencies over 5,000. First up, DIY. To write the copy, I recommend looking at other successful campaigns on Kickstarter and modeling how they organize their page. This will serve as your campaign page template. Then you can fill it in yourself or use tools like ChatGPT to help you out. I find it pretty helpful to have ChatGPT write a draft and then go in and clean up the tone to match the brand voice. After you write all the copy for your page, then you can fill in each section with supporting graphics, photos, and GIFs. Take the product photos you got before and insert them into the page. Take the campaign video you got created and cut up certain parts of it into GIFs. Now for the graphics, I recommend using Canva. It's free to start, but the pro version costs about $15 per month. Canva is not going to be as powerful as professional design software like Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, but with it, you can still create professional looking designs. I personally use Canva every single day, and I'm constantly surprised by how powerful it is for the cost. Next up, hiring freelance talent. This typically involves two key people, a copywriter from $600 to $1,200 and a page designer from $800 to $2,000. Of course, you could do the copywriting yourself and hire a graphic designer or vice versa to save costs. Finally, let's talk about working with an agency. Agencies will be your one-stop shop to getting your page created. So instead of having to find a freelance copywriter and designer separately, they'll just handle it all for you. But because of that, they'll charge you even more, even though the quality may be pretty similar to freelancers. All right, now let's talk about something that can make or break your campaign, your advertising and marketing strategy. This is where things get really interesting because no matter how amazing your photos, video, and page are, they don't matter if nobody sees them. Let me show you exactly what I mean using real numbers from our 3 campaigns. Desk Nest raised $165,000 in just their first day, Vicious Garden $67,000, and Loka Chai Maker $169,000. How did they do this? Well, it all comes down to their pre-launch advertising strategy. For example, let's look at Loka Chai Maker's numbers. Before they launched, they used pre-launch advertising to get 22,000 email subscribers and 4,000 VIP reservations. These are people that upgraded to VIP to get the best discount by paying $1 in the pre-launch. But how much did they spend? Well, to start, they had a $2,000 budget for testing. That's the budget we recommend at LaunchBoom because with that budget, we're able to show creators who they should target with ads, what their best performing ads are, and how much return on investment they will likely make on their campaign. This gives creators confidence to keep spending in the pre-launch. Let me show you Loka Chai's actual metrics. After the $2,000 test, they were seeing email signups for under $3 and VIP reservations for under $10. Once they saw these numbers working, we recommended that they scale up their advertising. So that's exactly what they did, going from spending $75 per day to $900 per day. Before they went live, they had spent $31,000 on pre-launch ads. By the end of their campaign, Loka had spent $60,000 total on paid advertising, raising $626,000 from over 5,900 backers. So does that mean you should spend $60,000 on your ads? Definitely not. There is no exact number that should be spent. The correct amount depends on your financial goals and what type of return you are getting on your ad spend. In general though, if advertising is performing well for first-time creators, they typically spend 10 to 20% of whatever they raise on ads. So that'd mean if a creator were to raise $100,000 in total, they may spend $10,000 to $20,000 on ads. All right, now let's talk about the final cost consideration, campaign management. At this point, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed, and you know what? That's completely normal because running a successful Kickstarter campaign is like running a mini business. For example, look at Vicious Gardens. Ross had already spent 3 years developing his game alone and created something beautiful. But when it came to the marketing strategy for launching it, he knew he needed some help. For Desk Nest, Scott was already a multi-time creator. This was actually his 4th campaign, but even with that experience, he felt like some extra support would go a long way. And for Loka Chai Maker, both founders had demanding full-time careers. Anish was general counsel at a major company, while Nikhil was involved with multiple businesses. So they wanted someone to hold their hand through the entire process. So how do you manage all this? Well, once again, you have 3 options. Self-manage, which is 0, guided support, 4,000 to 12,000, and full service agency, which is 25,000 plus. Usually people opt for self-management when they have more extra time than money. Creators who go this route typically take longer to launch because there is just so much to learn and manage. They have to become proficient in photography, videography, copywriting, page design, marketing, project management, customer service, and here's the catch. Even if you're great at 1 or 2 of these things, you probably aren't an expert at all of them. This is why many creators consider hiring an agency to manage their entire campaign. A full service agency can help with all those things I just listed out, but here's the drawback everyone needs to know about. A good full service agency typically charges at least $25,000 for their services. Plus, you'll need another $25,000 minimum for advertising spend, and they take an additional commission on all the funds raised, usually somewhere between 5 to 15%. Why so expensive? Well, you're not just paying for expertise, you're paying for an entire team of professionals, copywriters, designers, marketing experts, project managers, plus all the other overhead costs that a bigger company may have. That's why a full service agency only makes sense if you've got a big budget and are ready to spend $50,000 plus on campaign management. But what if you're somewhere in the middle? What if you want expert guidance without the full service price tag? This is exactly why we created the LaunchBoom Accelerator program. Instead of doing everything for you, we work with you to to create and manage your campaign. Look at our 3 example campaigns. Vicious Gardens raised $555,000, Desk Nest raised $468,000, and Loka Chai Maker $626,000. All 3 use Launchroom Accelerator, our guided approach rather than paying for full service management. With Accelerator, they got one-on-one calls with my team, access to our software launch kit to build out their pre-launch funnels, all of our proven templates from the past decade of launching products, and access to a community of over 1,000 other product creators just like them to get more feedback, ask questions, and of course, celebrate the wins. If you go this route, you can save money by doing some of the work yourself, still get professional guidance, and learn skills that you can apply to scaling your business and future crowdfunding campaigns. Remember those 2 questions we started with? How much does it cost to start a Kickstarter campaign and how much does it cost to run one? Well, the first answer is a no-brainer. It costs absolutely nothing, zero, zilch, nada. That's right, you can start a campaign without spending a single dollar. But the second question, that's where it gets interesting. Can you run a successful campaign with no money? Well, it's not impossible, but it's pretty unlikely. Because here's the truth. You're gonna need some investment in those critical elements we talked about. High quality photos and videos, professional page design, and most importantly, advertising. But here's the good news. You can significantly reduce these costs if you're resourceful and willing to put in some of the work yourself. Again, that's what Ross did at Vicious Gardens, Scott at Desk Nest, and Anisha Nikhil did at Loka Chai. Your campaign cost could be as low as a few $1,000s or as high as $50,000 or more. It's really up to you and your approach. Costs are covered, but I wanted to throw in one more deeper dive tutorial about Kickstarter's fees and some hidden costs that most creators forget about. So what are Kickstarter's fees? Well, their fee structure is actually pretty straightforward. There are 2 main fees that you'll pay as a creator. First, there's the platform fee. This is a flat 5% fee charged on the total amount you raise. So if you raise $10,000, Kickstarter takes $500 right off the top, and that's non-negotiable. So don't go trying to do a deal with Kickstarter to get that fee lower. Second, you've got payment processing fees. For pledges over $10, you'll be charged 3% plus 20 cents per transaction. For smaller pledges under $10, it's 5% plus 5 cents per transaction instead. So again, let's say you raise $10,000 from 100 backers. Your payment processing fees would be $10,000 times the 3% processing fee, which equals $300, and 100 backers times the 20 cents transaction fee, which equals $20. So in total, counting the platform fee and the payment processing fees, in this example, you'd pay $820 on $10,000 raised, or 8.2%. But when do you pay those fees? Well, Kickstarter has an all or nothing model, meaning backers are not charged unless your campaign hits its goal. And even then, their cards aren't charged until the very end of the campaign. So if you don't hit your campaign goal by the time your campaign ends, your backers are not charged and you owe nothing to Kickstarter. When does Kickstarter pay you, you might ask? Well, once your campaign successfully ends, Kickstarter takes up to 14 days to process payments from backers. This gives them time to handle any failed payments and lets backers update their payment info if needed. After that 14-day processing window, Kickstarter deducts their fees and transfers your funds to your linked bank account. Depending on your bank, this transfer can take an additional 3 to 5 business days to show up in your account. So plan for about 3 weeks total from campaign end to actually having your money in hand. Here's the first sneaky cost that catches a lot of creators off guard: dropped pledges. Because Kickstarter doesn't charge backers payment cards until the campaign ends, there are always a portion of your backers whose payments fail. This could be because of expired credit cards, insufficient funds, or fraud protection from their banks. And if this happens, they do have 7 days to update their card in Kickstarter, but if they don't, they will become a dropped pledge, meaning you do not get their money and you don't have to deliver them a reward. It's typical to see 3 to 5% of pledges drop, so you want to budget that in. And if you're counting on every dollar to hit your production targets, these drop pledges can mess with your plans if not accounted for. My recommendations: first, budget for it. And second, send reminder messages to backers whose credit cards fail that they have to update their card. This extra push usually gets a good amount of them to update their payment cards. In general, funds raised on Kickstarter are considered taxable income. Yep, the IRS wants their cut of your crowdfunding success. But it does get a little bit more complex. You may also need to deal with sales tax or VAT if you're shipping physical products as rewards. This is especially true if you're shipping to backers in the EU, where VAT regulations are strict. Here's what Kickstarter does to help. They operate as a marketplace facilitator and collect sales tax for items shipped to all 50 US states. They also collect VAT on items shipped to backers in the EU and the UK through their pledge manager. With all that said, said, you're still responsible for understanding your tax obligations. Kickstarter highly recommends talking to an accountant or tax advisor to make sure you're compliant with tax regulations. And keep detailed records of your project's finances. You'll need to report this information when you file taxes. The third hidden cost is shipping, and this one can be a real budget killer if you're not careful. While not technically a Kickstarter fee, shipping costs come straight out of your funds raised, and they can add up fast, especially for international backers. Domestic shipping is predictable enough, but international shipping is where things can get really expensive. You got the customs fees, VAT, additional carrier charges, and it all just adds up. So my recommendations are to use Kickstarter's Pledge Manager to collect shipping costs after your campaign. Don't try to estimate shipping during your campaign and bake it into your pledge levels. This can be a recipe for disaster when creators often ship their products 6 to 12 months after the campaign ends. The Pledge Manager lets you collect exact shipping costs based on each backer's location and their specific reward. It's way more accurate and it saves you from eating unexpected shipping costs. Plus, the Pledge Manager can handle tax collection for you, which makes your whole life a whole lot easier. Now you know exactly how much Kickstarter charges. The platform fee is 5%, payment processing runs about 3% plus transaction fees, and you need to plan for drop pledges, taxes, and shipping costs. Now you're not going to be surprised by any hidden fees or costs, so let's talk about the difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I think it's important to understand this because Indiegogo is the second biggest platform, and for some products, it may be the better option. If you're not sure whether to go with Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I'll take you through the pros and cons of each. They will battle it out in 6 key categories, and only one can go home with the belt. Near the end of this video, I'll also show you an easy to read summary on the benefits of each. So if you want to make the most informed decision, stick around till the end. Let's start with Kickstarter. It's the biggest and most well-known crowdfunding platform out there. Since 2009, artists, filmmakers, designers, and other creators have used Kickstarter to bring their creative projects to life. Kickstarter allows creators to pitch directly to the public without the need for traditional gatekeepers like banks or investors. Since it started, Kickstarter has played a role in funding a wide range of projects, from tabletop games to music albums to consumer products. And oh, by the way, Kickstarter campaigns have raised a jaw-dropping $7.66 billion with over 248,000 fully funded projects. And that's just a part of their flex. 777 campaigns have broken the $1 million mark on Kickstarter, and another 10,430 campaigns have raised over $100,000. Here are some more stats. Kickstarter has 15 main categories, with games, design, and technology being the most popular categories. Each main category also has subcategories. If you count those as well, Kickstarter has 156 total categories. Now, let's introduce Indiegogo. Indiegogo may be lesser known, but it actually started 1 year before Kickstarter did in 2008. At the beginning, Indiegogo's sole focus was independent films. Their name makes a lot more sense now, right? But a year after it launched, the platform started taking on projects and wild ideas from any category out there, including tech and innovation, arts, social causes, and more. Today, Indiegogo has launched over 800,000 ideas and has a backer community of 9 million. Okay, now that you know a bit about these crowdfunding contenders, let's get to the main event. Which one should you choose for your project? While you can technically launch all the same stuff on both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, when it comes to which categories perform best, each platform has developed their own niches. If you're launching an art project like a music album, film, or book, then Kickstarter is probably the best choice for you. In general, Kickstarter has done a better job of aligning themselves with artists and creatives than Indiegogo has. If you're launching a game, like a tabletop game, video game, or card game, then Kickstarter is definitely the best choice. Gaming alone accounts for 30% of the $7.66 billion in funds raised on its platform. Kickstarter has actually played a pivotal role in board game popularity in general. Kickstarter is also more favored by backers who have an appreciation for design. Products related to product design, travel, and photography tend to perform better here. Meanwhile, Indiegogo has a few of its own niche categories. For example, if you are launching a glamping site or boutique hotel, Indiegogo is the best platform for you. Fun fact, my company LaunchBoom has launched 7 boutique hotels on Indiegogo, with one being the first ever launched, which was in 2020, and one being the most funded hotel project ever at over 1.7 million raised. Another category that works especially well on Indiegogo is e-bikes. There have been a lot more e-bikes launched on Indiegogo than Kickstarter, which has led to a nice sized community of backers there. So which platform wins this round? Neither. The right choice depends on your product, and except for a few niche categories, the majority of products can perform well on either platform. Round 2. Platform size. One of the main reasons why crowdfunding works so well is because each platform has a massive backer community. By accessing these communities, you can increase your funding by a huge amount. Usually about 20 to 30% of the total funds raised come from the platforms themselves. So, which platform has a bigger backer community? Let's start with Kickstarter. If you go out onto the street and ask someone to name a crowdfunding platform, I bet most would say Kickstarter. That's because Kickstarter has grown into one of the most well-known crowdfunding platforms globally, and numbers back it up. As far as platform size goes, it comes out swinging, with a record-breaking $7.66 billion raised by 22.5 million backers. To put that number of backers into perspective, if Kickstarter's backer community were a country, it'd nearly be in the top 50. Indiegogo, on the other hand, still has a significant global presence since the platform started in 2008, but their numbers aren't quite as big as Kickstarter. The total funds raised is north of $3 billion from a backer community of 9 million. It may not have the same heavyweight numbers as Kickstarter, but there's no doubt it's still a force to be reckoned with in the crowdfunding world. So in the size department, Kickstarter wins this round. But remember, size isn't everything. More important is launching on the platform where you believe your community will be. Research the platform and look for projects like yours. If there are a lot of successful ones, then there's probably a strong backer community there that you can tap into. By the way, if you want more crowdfunding knowledge, I've created tons of free and super affordable resources so you can learn everything I know. For example, you can get the audiobook version of my best-selling book, Crowdfunded, for free. The book will teach you how to bring your product idea to life step by step. I'll leave a link for you in the corner of this video and in the description below. All right, let's get back to it. Round 3, flexibility. Off the bat, Kickstarter comes with some simple rules you need to follow. 1, you need to be creating something. That means no charity or personal projects. 2, you need to have a working prototype. That means no concepts or renders. 3, you need to give backers something in return. That means no exchanging funds for equity in your company. And they have some other legal requirements like you must be 18 or older, you must declare if you're creating a project in your own name or on behalf of a registered legal entity you're a part of, you must have an address, bank account, and government-issued ID based in the country you're creating in, which means no faking your location if you don't live in the list of eligible countries. It's like their own personal crowdfunding rulebook, and you need to abide by it if you want to raise money for your project on their platform. But the biggest difference of all is that Kickstarter operates on an all or nothing model, also known as fixed funding. This means that if a campaign doesn't reach its funding goal, it gets nothing. Yep. Backers aren't charged a cent, and the creator needs to go back to the drawing board. Some people don't like this funding model because it's more risky for creators in the short term, but in the long term, I believe it's better for creators and backers, and for an overall healthier crowdfunding ecosystem. Kickstarter also has an approval process before you can launch. Projects launching in most categories will be auto-approved by their system, but if you are launching a technology or design project, you will be manually reviewed by their trust and safety team. Don't worry. If you follow their rules, you should be approved within 3 days. Indiegogo, on the other hand, is like your cool, laid-back uncle. Just like Kickstarter, it offers fixed funding, but unlike Kickstarter, it has something called flexible funding. Flexible funding means if a campaign doesn't reach its funding goal, the creator still gets to keep the funds. Indiegogo is also more flexible when it comes to project approval. Projects can launch in the concept stage, which means they do not need to have a working prototype in order to launch. You can even launch with photorealistic renderings. With that said, Indiegogo's trust and safety team still reviews every project, even the concepts, to ensure project viability and to protect the community from scams. Lastly, Indiegogo is available in more countries than Kickstarter. Now, just like Kickstarter, Indiegogo has requirements around being over 18, using your legal name or business, and connecting a bank account from one of their approved countries. But all in all, Indiegogo is a little more flexible than Kickstarter. So if that's important to you, then this is your go-to. Round 4, Fees. Both platforms charge a 5% fee on funds raised, plus a payment processing fee, which can range from 3 to 5%, but they charge these fees in some different ways. Kickstarter does not charge backers as payment cards until the campaign ends. It's typical to see around 2 to 3% of your backers' payments to fail when this happens. 14 days after your campaign ends, Kickstarter will charge their fee plus payment processing fees from the total remaining amount and then send you the remaining money. Indiegogo is a little different. First off, they charge backers immediately. That means no guessing how many cards might fail when your campaign ends. 15 days after your campaign closes, Indiegogo will charge their fee plus payment processing fees plus 5% for reserve funds and then send you the remaining money. Hold up. What's that 5% for reserve funds? This is something unique to Indiegogo and is very important to understand. If you raise more than 1,000 in your local currency, then Indiegogo will hold 5% of your funds raised in something called reserve funds. It's almost like the platform plays a game of hide and seek with your money. But in all seriousness, this is to cover refunds and chargebacks. Indiegogo will hold the reserve funds for at least 6 months and only send you the money at their discretion, which basically means once you start delivering your product and you don't get a whole bunch of refunds, they'll send you your money. Because of some of the vagueness around reserve funds, I'll give Kickstarter the edge here for the creator. But besides that, their fees are basically the same. Regardless of which platform you choose, when it comes to fees, keep this in mind. Fees can eat into your funding, especially when it's unexpected. If you're serious about seeing your project through, you're going to want to be on top of all the possible costs, which means factoring fees into the process. My advice would be to budget this 5% fee from the get-go. Use it as a benchmark when setting your goal so that it doesn't pop up as an extra financial burden later. Round 5, features. Each platform has a ton of features to help you launch your project. Because there's so many, and so that this video doesn't become 100 hours long, this will be more of a rapid fire round. All right, feature 1. Pre-launch pages. These are pages to collect email addresses of people who are interested in your product before you launch. Kickstarter's pre-launch pages are very basic. You can only change one image and some text. Indiegogo's pre-launch pages are much more customizable, but still lacking compared to best-in-class pre-launch funnel builders. For example, at LaunchBoom, we pioneered the pre-launch and have our own software called LaunchKit. Using robust, feature-rich software for pre-launch is key to a successful launch. Feature 2. Campaign page editor. Your campaign page is one of the most important creative assets for your launch. So let's look at the built-in campaign page builders on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Kickstarter's campaign page editor got a much needed upgrade in September of 2023. It's easy and intuitive to use, but lacks features for power users. Indiegogo's campaign page editor may not look as clean and modern, but it's definitely more customizable. For example, if you are more tech savvy, you can even design your page using HTML. Feature 3, Reward Builder. Your rewards, or perks as they call them on Indiegogo, are what people back on your campaign. Let's first talk about the similarities. On both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you can add reward descriptions, reward photos, shipping rates by country, and limited quantities. You can also upsell more products by using something called add-ons. Now for the differences. On Kickstarter, you can also make rewards available for a limited time, as well as change the limited quantity whenever you want. Neither of these features are available on Indiegogo, but on Indiegogo, you can create something called secret perks, which are only visible to people who click on a specific link. This is not something Kickstarter has yet. Feature 4, custom link tracking. Both platforms give you the ability to track any source of traffic you want. On Kickstarter, you can generate any number of unique sources you want to track, and each will be given a unique link. You can manage your custom tracking links in your dashboard. On Indiegogo, you don't generate links beforehand, but add custom text to your campaign link and it will track automatically. Honestly, the way Indiegogo does it is a little confusing for most. I recommend checking out their documentation to fully understand it. Feature 5, ad tracking. One of the main sources of traffic to successful crowdfunding campaigns is from ad platforms like Meta or Google. Because of that, having accurate ad tracking is very important. Both Kickstarter and Indiegogo allow you to add your meta pixel for tracking, as well as set up Meta's conversion API, also called a CAPI for short. Lastly, both platforms allow for tracking with Google Analytics 4, also called GA4. Feature 6,
pledge management. After a crowdfunding campaign ends, the focus shifts to fulfilling your orders. A pledge manager makes this process way easier. Each platform has some built-in pledge management features, but both are pretty limited. At this time, it's still necessary to use a third-party pledge manager like Pledgebox or BackerKit if you want a much more robust feature set. Feature 7, post-campaign funding. There is no reason to stop collecting funds for your project after the campaign ends. Indiegogo has a feature called In Demand, which basically turns your campaign into a pre-order store. You can keep collecting funds for however long you want. Kickstarter doesn't have this feature, but you are allowed to launch an Indiegogo In Demand campaign after your Kickstarter campaign ends. The catch is that Indiegogo will charge you 8% instead of 5% because you came from a different platform. So, who wins this round? Well, I'd give it to Indiegogo. They historically have been more open to testing new features for creators, and even though Kickstarter has added a bunch of new features over the last year, Indiegogo still has more. Round 6, promotions. Remember how each platform has millions of backers in their community? Wouldn't it be nice to get your campaign in front of them? That's where promotions come in. Both platforms offer ways to promote your campaign to their backer communities. Starting with Kickstarter, they have opportunities to get featured on their homepage, within category pages, and in their newsletter. How? Well, the first step is to get the coveted Projects We Love badge. That means that the Kickstarter team really loves your project, and because of that, you get a special badge on your campaign. This special badge gives you more visibility on the platform and increases your likelihood of getting exclusive placements in areas like the newsletter. I know what you're thinking. Can't I just pay a fee to get better placement on Kickstarter? Nope, Kickstarter is not pay to play. Indiegogo, on the other hand, will gladly tell you how and how much it costs to get better placement. Just like Kickstarter, they have promotional opportunities on their homepage and in their newsletter. Costs can be one-time fees or them taking a higher percentage of any funds raised from backers that came from their promotional efforts. So, who wins in this category? It's hard to say. If you look at it in terms of accessibility, I'd say that Indiegogo would win because even though the promotions cost something, how you get promoted is pretty black and white. If you look at it in terms of effectiveness though, I'd say that Kickstarter would win. At LaunchBoom, we've consistently seen more funding come from Kickstarter's promotions than Indiegogo's. But the thing is, whichever you choose, getting promoted by either platform is awesome. All right, time to sum it all up. For Kickstarter, here are your pros and cons. Pros: a large and active backer community, strong reputation, especially in the arts, gaming, and technology and design. No money is held by Kickstarter after the campaign. Cons: more strict project approval process, works with less countries, a little more limited in terms of features. And for Indiegogo, pros: flexibility in funding options, works with more countries, less strict in terms of project acceptance. Cons: 5% of funds raised are held for at least 6 months as reserve funds. Flexible funding can actually be riskier for creators in the long run. Doesn't have the same brand recognition as Kickstarter in some circles. So my final verdict: it ends in a tie. The truth is, the showdown between Kickstarter and Indiegogo is not about which platform is better overall, it's about which one is better for you and your project. We're in the final stretch. In this last tutorial, you'll be looking over my shoulder as I start a Kickstarter project so you can understand how to set it up correctly. So if we go back to Kickstarter and we click on Start a Project, you are then going to click on it one more time. Now we're going to go into the first part of the setup, which is choosing your primary category and subcategory. So there are 15 primary categories on Kickstarter. Take a look through these, see the one that makes the most sense. It should be pretty obvious, but just so you know, design, games, and technology are the biggest categories in terms of funds raised on the platform. And the reason why the category matters is that if I go back to Kickstarter, you can see they have all these categories listed here. And one of the coolest parts about Kickstarter is actually the discoverability. You know, they have a lot of people on the platform, backers that are looking for cool projects to actually buy. If you choose the right category, you're going to show up in this category and you're going to appeal to people that are in your audience. So it's important to choose the right one. So let's say that I choose design and product design, and all these subcategories are going to be dependent on whatever the primary category is. Next, you're going to go into one more subcategory. This doesn't really matter that much, but if you, for some reason, you feel like there is another category that makes it a little bit more relevant or a little bit more specific to you, go for it, but you don't actually have to choose one. So let's say I skip this.
Next, we're gonna go into the location of your project. Now, this can be a little bit confusing because this is not actually the location of where you reside. It is the location of where your bank account is. For most people, that's gonna be the same, but it's not always the case. You know, let's say that you are living in Australia, but your bank account is in Austria for some reason. You would choose Austria. The simple thing here is wherever your bank account is, wherever you will be collecting the funds, that is what you choose. So let's say United States for me. I'm gonna move on. All right, now we are past the initial project setup and we're diving into the actual back end of setting up the project. So the first things is that you have to review the rules and press got it. They just wanna make sure that you actually read them. So read through them, they're very simple. All of them are important, especially take a look at the prohibited items. You don't wanna do all this work of getting it set up and then find out that the product that you're trying to launch is on their prohibited item list. So read through that, but let's go to got it. Now it shows up with the different categories that you need to fill out in order to launch your project. So let's start with basics. Okay, so now we're in basics. So we're gonna start off with your project title and subtitle. So these are the things that are gonna show up at the top of the campaign. If you type in, let's say paper cuts, I'll use what they have in here. It's a rowdy party game. Sounds fun. And I just click save really quickly. Oh, all right, hold on, they have this down here. I'll come back to this. They won't let me save unless I do that. So I'll save, then I'll go to preview. So this is the title and this is the subtitle. Okay, so obviously very important. And also, just so you know, you can always preview your campaign page as you save. All right, so let's go down. So you already chose the project category. You could update it if you want right here. Project location. So this is kind of confusing, right? Because this is actually different than what you chose prior. So let's say that it was the case that you are living somewhere different than where your bank account is, you can actually specify. So you can get very specific here. Let's even just say Australia. Let's say I'm in, did I completely spell it? Australia, Mexico? I didn't even know that was a thing. So let's go to Sydney in this case. All right, next up is the project image. So you can see the dimensions listed right here, 1024 by 576 at least. I recommend using something like Canva unless you have Photoshop or some other photo editing software, but Canva is free, super easy to use. So create your project image and upload it, and it's the thing that shows up here. So next we have the project video. It is technically optional, but not really, because every successful campaign, or pretty much every successful campaign, has one, so you definitely want to make one. So make it, upload it. Here are all the file formats. All right, target launch date. This is optional, like it says. There really is no big reason to do this. All it does is it allows Kickstarter to give you recommendations on when you should complete certain things. That takes some time, which I'll get to in a moment. We never do this. You don't have to do this. All right, next is the campaign duration. So you can either do fixed number of days from 1 to 60 or end on a specific date and time. We like to do ending on a specific date and time because if you were to, let's say, do a fixed number of days, and let's say that you launch in the morning, let's just give it a time, 8 a.m., then it is going to end 30 days later at 8 a.m. And we don't like the campaigns to end in the mornings. No, it's better for it to end in the evenings, actually as late as possible, because you want to actually maximize the selling time during the last day, because there is a lot of people that wait to the very end. And so that urgency that happens in the last day, you want to take advantage of it. So let's say that you were going to do a 30-day campaign, and today, as I'm recording this, it's the 4th of December. So let's say that we want to end this about 30 days from now. The other thing is that I recommend ending on a Thursday. These just tend to perform better. And so I would do 11:59 p.m. and then whatever my time zone is to maximize the selling. And then lastly, this is the thing that I clicked earlier. Late pledges is relatively new. And all this means is that if you enable it, which I highly recommend that you do, that when your campaign ends, people can still back the campaign and it will still add on to the funds raised, and there will be no time limit anymore. So anyone that weren't able to actually pledge during the campaign still can. So funding, this is where you're going to be setting your goal. There's really only one thing to put in here, which by the way, you can use this project budget if you want and have them generate a spreadsheet for you, or use this calculator to try to figure out what your goal should be. Whatever you use, just know that you need to set a goal in here, because one of the big things about crowdfunding is that you need to hit your funding goal in order to get your funds. So make sure that you set your goal for the minimum amount that you need in order to make your project happen. Let's just say it was $10,000. I'll click save, and funding is done. So let's move on to rewards. All right, so rewards. So these are the things that people are going to back on your Kickstarter campaign. And there are 3 different parts of the rewards section. You have items, reward tiers, and add-ons. Items are the things that are a part of your reward tiers or a part of your add-ons. Sounds kind of confusing, so let me actually just show you. If I go back out to Kickstarter and I click on a random project, so in this case, I'll click on the side quest project, and let's scroll down to their rewards. So you can see that they have their reward tiers right here. And if I look here, they have 4 items included in this reward. So let's click on details and then look at this a little bit more closely. So again, you have the reward tier right here, which is for $16, called digital, and it has 4 different items a part of it. It doesn't look like there are any add-ons. I want to show you one with add-ons. So if I want to choose this one, the print and digital, and I'll go ahead, you can see that right here, it also has add-ons. And each of these add-ons has items included in it as well. So again, items are included in reward tiers and they're also included on add-ons. Add-ons can be then added to reward tiers, which basically operate as upsells. If I were to click this and this and this, you can see that the funding amount went up, or my pledge amount went up. So it's basically operating as an upsell. So coming back to this, let's actually set it up. So if I go to items, I want to set up my items first. So what are all the different things that are going to be a part of your reward tiers? So in this case, remember I'm making a party game. So let's just say party game is my main item they're going to get. So I'll save that. You can also add an image. I would recommend adding an image if you have one, just to make it so they can actually visually see it. And let's say I have another thing that is like a carrying case or something like that. So I'll click save. So now I have 2 items. Next, I'll go to reward tiers. So now let's actually create a reward. So if I click on reward, then I can start to build it. So let's say that I'm going to call my first one the early bird, and we'll put $10 off or something like that. So get an early copy for $10 off. Retail is going to be 30. Okay. And then if I go down here, you can choose an image if you want. I would recommend doing that. I don't have one for this. And let's say that my pledge amount is going to be 20. You can change the pledge amount for a late pledge. They, recommend that you actually increase that. I would as well. So let's just say it's 22 once it goes to late pledge. And then let's keep going. So you can also choose the project quantity. So making it unlimited or limited. This is pretty cool. If you want to create a bit of scarcity, you can create a limit to the amount of rewards that you have available. So let's say I make it 10. Then let's go to start and end. So you can actually make rewards available at very specific times. Probably the thing that is most used is that the end time. So if you want to say, hey, there's a limited quantity, but also a limited time that this is going to be available, maybe just the first day of launch, you can do that. So let's say you launched on the 10th. You could say, hey, this is going to be available until 11:59 p.m. So basically midnight on day 1. So that can be very cool. Next, we want to put in the items. You created the items. So let's say that I'm going to choose that. You get one of the party game and one of the carrying case. Okay, you can actually create new items from here as well if you want. And then from here, you want to say, are they going to be receiving any physical goods? Yes or no? So let's say yes, and it's only going to be physical goods. And that's going to be very important when it comes to shipping. That's basically what they want to understand. So estimated delivery, you want to choose and try to be as accurate as you can here. Talk to your manufacturing partners, fulfillment partners prior to see when you actually think you can ship. So let's say I'm going to ship in February of 2026. And lastly, we'll get into shipping. So if I go to any of these, most typically people are going to be doing ships to certain countries. This is typically what I recommend doing, is that you're going to want to very specifically choose the countries. The way that shipping works on Kickstarter is that you actually have to give a flat rate per country, or you can do it per European Union in this case as well. And so you can give a flat rate for that country. You might already be thinking this, that actually can be very difficult to do, especially with countries that are much larger, and shipping rates can vary quite a bit across the country, like the United States even. And so what I recommend doing in most cases is actually putting all the countries that you're going to ship to, but making the cost 0 and making it clear on the campaign page that you're going to charge for shipping post-campaign. And you can use a tool like a pledge management tool in order to collect shipping at a later point. And that way you can actually give the most accurate rates and make sure that you don't lose money on shipping. All right. And the very last thing is add-ons. So you actually need to configure some add-ons first. And so we can go back to that in a moment and then add the add-ons from there. All right, so last step in rewards are add-ons. So add-ons are actually optional. You don't have to have an add-on. It's only if you have something additional to sell. So let's say that you do have something, you can go in here and do it. It basically works very similar to setting up the reward tier, except you're going to have to go back and configure the add-on here once you've created it. And like I showed you before, once you actually configure it, it will then show up for backers like this, and they can add it on. It's definitely a really, really powerful tool if you do have an add-on, but if you don't, then of course, there's no need to put something in there. Hey, real quick, if you want to go even deeper into the subject of launching your project on Kickstarter, then you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world. I have over 300 ratings with 4.7 out of 5 stars. You can get it on Kindle, audiobook, paperback, and it was also endorsed by both the CEO of Kickstarter and the CEO of Indiegogo. So I'll leave a link to check it out in the description below. But with that, let's get back to the video. So next up we have story. So story is what we call the campaign page. So everything that is going to appear below this image and below this story section. If I go back, they have this nice, like very minimal editor, and you can click here and see that this is how you actually change up some of the formatting or add specific things. The actual functionality of this is pretty basic, but it can still be quite powerful. And so typically what you'll see is that people will put in a mixture of text and images here. And so let's just say that I want to do a couple different headings. This is the best party game ever. Of course, horrible copywriting. Don't match my copywriting, but just to show this quickly, here's why it's awesome. And one more thing, let's say, here's the team behind it. Okay, so what I want to show you here is that if I go now to the preview, these headlines show up, of course, but also they show up here. So this is really important to understand, because if you're going to be using the headline feature within Kickstarter and using the text editor like that, then it will show up here on the left and people can click on it and it will take them to those sections. So that can be very powerful, but also if you have a ton of headlines, this can look really messy. So I would recommend using it pretty sparingly if you're going to, and then end up using a lot of images and different types of media as well. My recommendation here, this video is not going to be a masterclass on how to actually create a really good campaign page, but go look at some other campaigns that have done really well and then match the style and the different types of things that they're doing on their campaign. All right, so next we have the risks and challenges. So you want to be transparent about any risks or challenges that you see. If you want to see what this might look like, again, I would look at some of the campaigns that are live right now or have already been successful and look what they wrote. But typically people are talking about challenges they might face when it comes to manufacturing or fulfillment and things like that. So it doesn't have to be too long, but just map out anything right there. So if you have anything that matches this, you can click some of these boxes. If you use AI, you want to disclose that as well. And then FAQs. So I recommend adding FAQs. You don't have to have them in order to launch, but I do recommend thinking through some. Let's even see if this campaign right here has them, so you can just check out what they look like. If you go down here and click on FAQ, looks like they didn't add any. I would recommend to add some, but they will show up right here for backers or prospective backers to take a look at. So if we go back here, then what you're going to do is click save. Oh, of course I didn't do that, so we'll delete that, click save, and go up to plan. So the idea behind the planning section is to give backers an understanding of where you're actually at in your product development process. So if you want to read through these different sections right here, the idea, proof of concept, working prototype, pre-production, production, and basically say at what stage you are at. Most people are not going to be all the way at the production stage. And so you really just want to be honest, and you're going to need to have a working prototype in most cases, even to be accepted on Kickstarter. So probably you're going to be around here. I will keep moving on and go to the people section now. Since I'm using my account, we already have the LaunchBoom profile set up, but you'll probably be setting up a new one. So you'll want to set up your profile. You can edit it here, add an image, add a little bit more information about you, just so people can understand who you are. You can create a little vanity URL. So that's just like a nicer looking URL. And if you have any collaborators, so people you want to add to the project, you can do that. So you can add them to this project right here and they'll be able to log in. You can set the different permissions and everything as well. Lastly, there's some demographic information. This is totally optional, but this helps them out with some of their anti-discrimination research and work. So not necessary, but if you want to do that, you can. All right, let's move on to payment. All right, so for the payment section, this is where we're going to basically set up your bank account information and also verify your identity. So the first thing is that you're going to need to verify your contact email. So do that. Next, you're going to need to choose if you're an individual, a business, or a nonprofit. So when you go here, it will look different for you. I had already actually completed this because we are a business, but you'll have a drop down and you'll just have to choose what you are and then click continue. Then from there, it's going to open up this, which is where you're going to need to basically verify yourself with Stripe, which is their payment processor. It's the person that's going to actually facilitate the transfer of funds between Kickstarter and you. So clicking on this is actually going to open up a whole new window, so I'm not going to do that. But you're basically just going to put in all your information depending on what you chose as your project type. And then after that, this section will open up, which is going to be you just putting in your bank account information. So really simple, account number, routing number, and a little bit more information. And then that will be where they're going to actually send the funds to. So it's really important to get that right. Lastly, you're going to need to put in a payment source like a credit card or a debit card here. And this is only if there are chargebacks. So it's very rare, but if that happens, they want to have a payment card on file to be able to charge you and to be able to pay back the backer in the case of that happening. This is pretty rare, but if you want to learn more about this, they have this learn more button right here. All right, so that wraps up payments. Let's go to promotion. So promotion has a few different things for promoting your project, just like it sounds. So let's go through each of them. So first off, the project URL. You can see here, because I haven't submitted for review, I don't have this yet. And I'll talk about submitting for review in a moment, but just know that you will get a URL that you can share. The pre-launch page. So again, because we haven't gotten our project approved, we cannot launch a pre-launch page. I do recommend launching a pre-launch page, by the way, once you get the project approved, just so you know what that looks like. If we go back out here and let's say that we were to choose design, and then let's say we go to more filters and look at upcoming projects, you can see that they have upcoming projects or these pre-launch pages for all types of projects on Kickstarter. This is basically what you can create, and you can have people follow your campaign before it actually launches. So let's go back in here. Next, custom referral tags. This is a little bit more advanced. In most cases, you don't really need to put something here, but there's a way to do referral tracking once you actually go live. So if you want to have a little bit more customization behind what the tag looks like, you can put something in here. Google Analytics, highly recommend that you set this up. So this is going to help you with your tracking. So you're going to want to create a Google Analytics account. They have this nice, really easy to follow help article here. And all you have to do is put in your tracking ID and then this API secret. Again, this will tell you how to do it. So just click on that link and they will show you how. Next up, Metapixel. So if you're planning on doing advertising, I would highly recommend using this. If you're not planning on advertising, I would highly recommend looking into planning on advertising because it's very, very effective. So you're going to want to look at this help article to figure out how to get the pixel ID and then put it in here. Then lastly, same thing on Meta. This is just going to enhance the tracking. And so I highly recommend that you do this as well. So put in all these different tracking IDs, and that's going to allow you to track the success of your campaign within all these different services. All right, with the promotion tab done, let's go back to project overview. So what will happen next is that you're going to submit your project for review. Now, I haven't technically completed all these sections in this overview, but let's say that they were all done and they all have this green bubble and check mark. Then this project review section right here will be actually available for you to click on. And this is where you actually submit your project for approval to Kickstarter's team. They'll look over it, make sure it abides by all their rules and guidelines. And they say it takes about 1 to 3 business days, which is true, but I would still give yourself even more time, at least a week before you actually are looking to launch, just to make sure that you have enough time. So once you actually have you completed the review process and you are approved, then you can launch this right down here, all right? And there will be another button for you to click once that's all done. Congrats! You just went through the 9 fundamental tutorials of Kickstarter and probably know more than 99% of the people on the planet on how to launch a successful Kickstarter. I know that was a lot of info, but if you want to go even deeper into what goes into a launch, you can download a free copy of my best-selling book, Crowdfunded, by clicking the link below. Lastly, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stuff like this. All right, I'll see you in the next one.